So welcome to a new series where I'm going to basically go back to basics and start from scratch. And what I mean by that is that obviously I've fished a lot and I've fished in many different places, many different styles. But naturally my lean is towards natural venues, rivers, sort of still waters, bream fishing, roach fishing, that kind of thing. And it's quite obvious that the most popular type of fishing in the UK is now commercial carp fishing, and although I've done some of it and I've done quite a bit on feeders and things like that, it's quite obvious to me that the more time I spend with our guys that I don't really feel 100% confident that I could sit down and assess a fishery or a peg and understand where to start, because there's a massive amount of techniques and methods that have been developed over the years that I've probably not kept up with. And I do believe that you can teach an old dog new tricks, which is me. And one of the problems if I bring myself to these fisheries and just try and self-teach is that I think I've got too many bad habits and too many presumptions that I think I know what I'm doing. So I turned to Joe and I said, why don't we wipe the slate clean and start from fresh? And basically I want to spend some time from the ground up, and that means my kit, my approach, just empty me sort of memory bank of everything that I know about fishing and start again. And I want you to join us on this journey where I basically go through a series of days fishing with Joe as my mentor to make sure that I can expel some of my preconceived ideas and my misconceptions about how to catch carp and how to catch F1s and commercial fish, because of course there's lots of silvers in these places as well. And that's what we're going to do, step by step, run through everything, and hopefully I'll be able to build from the ground up a brilliant library of knowledge that's going to help me to be able to understand these places and today's modern styles of fishing. So join us on this journey which starts today. So we better get ready, because you can't turn up without gear, because preparation is massive in my mind, always has been, especially when I'm not quite sure exactly what I need, because of course, although I know for a fact we're going to need some pole rigs, and I know they're going to need to be strong, and I know they're going to need to be of a certain size. This particular place is serious because the fish pull back, and because of that Joe's got me rigged up with some nice thick elastic, and that is the 16 to 18 blue zip, and then the pink 18 plus. So we've done that, got that ready, so we're not undergunned, and then we're going to need some rigs to match. So when I asked him what I needed, he said get some Collets and some Furies, because of course it's quite easy when you're, and this is the reason why I want to spend some time doing this, you'd kind of think, right, I need some shallow floats, I need some dubbing floats, I'm going to need some real fine margin floats, and that one's not got a very good slot in it, and then need some deck rigs and some super deep water rigs and shallow water rigs, and you can soon get lost in it all. And even when I look at our range of floats, there's quite a few, but not as many as some, and what we've got to try and do is keep it fairly simple. And because we're going to be doing some on the deck short line fishing, and I know the Glebe's not super shallow, I presume that's why we've got some Collets, which are
designed by Sam Collett, and he fishes the Glebe quite a lot because I know it's an open venue and you get quite a bit of wind, quite a bit of tow and drift. And he wanted a stable float. And what's interesting is the two floats that Joe's recommended I tie have both got the same size bristle, which is 2.5 mil, which I know for a fact is a popular bristle size in what we sell, because obviously that's buoyant enough to hold an hard pellet, but probably more importantly, so it's not affected by the liners too much. So I'm just roughly shotting these because Joel put me right as to what we need to do, and I've noticed that they like their bristles showing quite a lot, whereas obviously as a traditional angler I'm more about having them dotted. And nice strong float, tied to 0234, which is just under 10 pound breaking strain, which to me is quite heavy. However, I don't think it's for the breaking strain as much as what it is for the durability. And what I mean by that is that the thickness will stand the hammer. So I think you could probably get away with slightly lighter if you weren't catching as many fish, but it's quite possible we're going to catch quite a lot of fish. So you want your rig to stand the stick that it's going to get when it's going over and over and over the fish's backs and ultimately over your landing net, and it's going to get some stick. So that's the reason why we're tying it to that thickness on Joe's recommendation. Summertime, I know he's not shy with his main lines, so just going to mark up what we've got that tied to. And that's a 4x16 Fury. I've tied some collets as well, obviously the main difference being the length of the stem, so that seems quite sensible to me. If we're going to fish in deeper water, then we've got slightly longer float, longer stem, slightly longer, more elongated body and a longer tip. And then for slightly shallower water, just basically proportion down a bit stubby, so it's a quicker setting float. And fiberglass stems, both can take some stick, and they hopefully should do us. I need to tie some hooks so that we've got everything we need for the start of this back to the drawing board, learning new tricks style of video, which I'm hoping to learn a bit and hopefully pass that on to you guys as well. Follow me through this journey and we'll see how we get on. So we're off on our first little episode, lesson, what you want to call it. We're off to the Glebe and I've got some kit. I've not tried to perfect everything I've got, but I've put together some gear, elastics, rigs, hooks. Brought some bait on Joe's recommendation, which is dead simple. But we'll explain that a bit in more detail later on. And let's get on his way and start this new sort of back to basics, back to the drawing board, teaching me a few new tricks. I'm really looking forward to it, and I think you'll learn as much as I do along the way. And I think that's a really important thing, that it's sometimes, as an angler, myself and probably yourselves that are experienced but have done other kinds of fishing, and you can overcomplicate it because presumption and bad habits are something that don't always bear well when you're doing something new. So let's wipe the slate clean, think about it in a simple fashion, open his minds and see what we can improve on in our fishing. Let's do it. So we're in Leicestershire today at the famous Glebe Fishery, and I think Joe's brought me here because there's lots of fish and they're very obliging and they feed.
because why make it difficult? What I like about this particular place is that it's big open water. It catches the wind, which makes things tricky, and I like a challenge when I'm fishing. It's a nice wide open lake, which means you've got somewhere to go. And I know for a fact that you can actually feed bait here, which is one of my biggest issues because I can't stop throwing bait in. And one thing that probably Joe's going to put me right. And I just wanted to point out that on this first episode, we are literally going to start from the bottom and work up. And, you know, I'm not going to sit here and insult your intelligence by saying that I don't know exactly what I'm doing. But when I was driving here this morning, I actually thought to myself, you know, I'm a great driver and I've driven down from Yorkshire and sort of hogged the road and all the rest of it. And I thought I did a great job of driving, but if I had to take my driving test tomorrow, I probably wouldn't pass because of all the bad habits that I mentioned earlier and all the presumptions that I think I know about fishing. So let's expel them by breaking it down. So step by step, we're going to go through all the procedures from swim management to bait management, rigs, tackle, and then how to react to how the fish are feeding. So let's start off with bits and bobs, how we approach a day like today. So we're down on Lake 5, and obviously we've got the encyclopedia of commercial fisheries, which is Joe Carass. And it's time to look at the bait, which obviously for me is the most fundamental part of fishing. And before we came, I'm like, right Joe, what do we need? Well, you need some 6 and 8mm pellets, which I get that because that's a staple diet of most carp. Some dead maggots, and then some groundbait and a few hookworms. And it seems pretty simple.
Very simple.
Which is great. But just tell me what the choices are about, because obviously there's 2 sizes of pellets here. We've got no micros, which were the first thing I noticed. Just walk me through that.
Well, we're going to fish probably a short pole line and a bomb line, and obviously we need different sizes of pellets for those 2 different swims. We can't feed 6mm pellets out long for a bomb, so we need 8mm pellets for that. And then the 6mm pellets would be ideal for that short pole. We're going to look at sort of 4 to 5 metres. They make a lovely little plot when you throw them in. They're probably the right size. You might catch an odd skimmer as well, so it's quite nice. We could use 8mm short, but I think 6mm is a good way to go. And then, like I say, 8mm for the bomb. So yeah, just keeping it nice and simple. No micros. You could bring some micros, but I think for what we want to achieve today, it's just something else to bring that, yeah, you could use it, but I think it's probably just complicating it more than what we probably need
So
today.
just simplifying it down a bit.
Simplifying it.
So something you just touched on, and the immediate question I've got is, so I'm right in saying that if you could catapult 6mm far enough, you'd use them?
Possibly, but I think we're just late May now, aren't we? We still haven't quite kicked off properly yet. In another month, I would just use 8mm across the board.
Right.
Because the fish are more aggressive, they're feeding better, and there's probably a few more roach feeding. Whereas now, I think we can still get away with the 6mm and create a nice, a nice situation with them.
So obviously straight away I've noticed that roach might be feeding, so you don't want a pellet small enough that a silverfish is going to be able to pick it up. So it's accordingly, if it was midsummer, it'd be just add 8s, long and short.
Yeah, I think 8s are great now, and I'm getting more and more confident with using 8s myself, just out and out 8mm. So,
yeah. Because if they're good for there, they should be good for there.
They're good for there. And it might be
brain.
that 8s are even better short than the 6mm, but we can.
Brilliant.
The beauty for how we're going to fish today, quite frugally with a bait on that short pole. Switching to 8s isn't a big deal, do you know?
I understand.
It's perfectly easy to do.
Because I know noise is a big thing, therefore I'm like, well, that's great, then we can rattle these 8s in, and if they're working out, they should work there.
Yeah, definitely.
Because fundamentally, that's the same bait, just in a different packaging.
Yeah.
As in, it's a different size, and we've spoke about that before, which we can probably go into more detail on the bank. So
simple stuff though, just hard pellets straight out of the bag. No need to worry about it.
Nice and easy. Groundbait and dead maggots, what's that?
Yeah, I think you can't really go on a commercial fishery now without having something to attack the margins with, and I always think groundbait for me is the best. You can use micros like we mentioned, but for me groundbait has more pulling power than anything else, and then once they're in your swim, you've got to then work out how best to catch them. But I think groundbait nowadays, it's just brilliant. It just attracts them. It's a fish magnet, and I wouldn't go anywhere without it, as long as it's allowed, of course.
Because if they want 6 and 8mm pellets, why aren't we feeding 6 and 8mm pellets down the edge? That is my immediate thoughts.
It's weird with pellets because you're trying to, when you're fishing shallow water with them, you kind of get this situation where the water's not colouring up, they're maybe not as confident. Whereas with ground bait, when you're fishing in this much water, you get that lovely situation where the fish are wafting it around, there's a lot of stuff going on, they're colouring the water up, they're rooting, they feed very confidently. Whereas with pellets, you're kind of getting them picking a little bit.
Yeah.
And it just isn't quite as right in the margins for me.
No.
I think you're trying to create a different situation in the margins, that they're coming in to just mop up at the end of the day. And I think you're kind of creating this mass feeding situation with ground bait.
Yeah, it relaxes them, they get carried away, they lose their inhibitions, and they just hoovering everything up, which is kind of what my presumptions of it were, that a few pellets, because it is a few, you know, when you actually break it down, it's not, because that and that are fundamentally the same ingredients, aren't they? But that's ground pellets basically. So by doing that, you've got less of them, which means they've got to pick at them, which, if you're looking for less fish, and and you're going to them, whereas when they come into the edges, you just need them to lose all their inhibitions.
And just feed on mass.
So why don't we just put a pellet on the hook? And why are we using
again,
maggots?
it's just one of those things. It's like we can't just feed this on its own, because you'll struggle to catch them. Unless you want to put paste on the end, you'll struggle to catch them.
Okay.
So you do need to give them a bit of meat, and that's where the maggots really come in. You can feed them dead maggots, they absolutely love them. It's a great hook bait. We'll probably put 6 or 7 or maybe even 8 maggots on the hook.
Yeah.
Lovely big target bait. Over the top of that, they just love it. They just love dead maggots.
Crazy,
That combination, it just catches fish.
No, and when you talk about it like that, it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, well, if they want pellets, they want pellets.
Yeah.
And me as an angler, you know, it's maggots short, it's maggots long, or it's worms. If that's what they want, that's. But I'm getting the feeling that it's not actually always exactly what they want. It's how you can use the bait to catch them.
We're kind of using the hard pellets to manage the swim, because ultimately, if you put a pot of ground bait out there, you'd get loads of fish in your swim, but you wouldn't be able to catch them because the bottom would be silt blowing and silting, and you know, you'd struggle to catch them. Whereas down the edge, we're not trying to manage the swim the same. We're trying to create a mass feeding situation, and
Brilliant.
That's where this really comes into its own.
Completely get it.
Yeah.
And I know, because I've been with you before, that you always try and have a few worms.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Again, another big target hook bait. There's some days where worms will outscore everything else. 2 worms, nice big hook bait. They just love it.
We're not chopping them and feeding them?
Not chopping them. It's
just
purely
for
a hook bait. Yeah,
right,
just purely for a hook bait. It's always worth having a little handful in your bag. But 2 of them on a nice big hook, it can be deadly, like an absolute game changer. Some days the maggots are fine, but there's some. I know I did really well on a match here last year. Double worm, was the #1 by a mile. They just love it. They just
fantastic.
They just take it with such confidence.
So I need to mix my ground up nice and wet.
Nice and wet, over wet.
Over wet.
Over wet.
Right, we'll get on with that, and then we'll take it back to the swim.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Joe.
We'll have it up, Mick.
Well, that's nice and wet. Of course, I've seen you do it, Joe, and I mean, there's no way on this earth that I'd ever wet it that much, because ordinarily I'm trying to put it in a feeder. But you put even more than that in?
A lot more, yeah.
Would you? Right, that's me then.
Because obviously... the reason is it's going to dry out quite a lot more, and you want it, that's the finished consistency. I like it.
I can feel the weight in it already, and that is the first obvious thing to me, because you want that to be heavy in the margin, so it sits on the bottom, they don't float it around. Is that the right?
As best they can, yeah. Plenty of water in there, get it down to the bottom so it sits there and lays, and for me, it just works better that way.
And these pellet-based ground bait, they do take a lot of water, don't they?
A lot.
And they're very hard to ruin, is what I've heard a lot of people say. You can't it's not like the old-fashioned sort of natural mixers, which if you put too much water in, the starches from the corns and the breads and all the seeds, it kind of clags and you can't unclag it. But I've seen Lee Kerry and yourself overwetting this ground bait, and you don't seem to ruin it, which is a great tip. But that's the big differences to what I would do naturally, so great start. Right.
You excited?
Yeah, of course I am, because as an angler, you never stop learning, do you?
No.
And every time I go fishing, I come away I might not learn something new, but I learned something about the day.
Yeah.
Because every time I go fishing, the fish act differently.
Absolutely.
And so today, I mean, I've been to Glebe. I've fished 3 or 4 times here. First couple of times I came, it were all feeder work, and I think I were on the bigger number lakes, 8 and 9 or something, and it was just basically chucked at far bank, and somebody told me to fish pace, so I didn't, because I didn't know what I was
You
doing.
ignore that as well.
But that's a long time ago, and so I know that there's potential to catch a lot of fish here. But I'm sat here looking at this place, and I mean, obviously we've gone through as bait, but I think I probably would have had too much bait with me, because I'm thinking...
Too many options.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I look at this and I think, I want to chuck a feeder to that far bank. There's a sleeper over there, and that'll be a great place to fish. And I'd probably want to start there and then try and set up some lines. And because there's that much water to go at, how do you single it down? How do you sort of bring it together and say, that's how I'm going to attack my day's fishing?
Yeah, I think it's so easy to get lost. 5 hours goes quick, doesn't it, in a match situation? It goes by very quick. And I've had it before. I've tried to fish feeder, I've tried to fish a bomb, I've tried to fish long pole, short pole, margins. Before you know it, your 5 hours is gone.
Yeah.
And you've got to use it wisely and also fish to your strengths. I think that is such an important thing.
That's interesting.
It's all well and good me coming and saying to you, let's just go and fish 40.5 metres shallow all day. But you're probably not comfortable doing that yet.
No.
Because you've never really done it.
No.
So it's very hard to sort of just say to someone, like, go and fish shallow all day.
Yeah.
Whereas I think what we're going to do today is a very logical approach where we thought about how we're going to get the best from this swim, whilst also giving ourselves a chance to win, which I think in a match situation is obviously what we want to do.
Yeah, of course it is. And even if that were just a pleasure day,
getting the most from it.
Getting the maximum from where you're fishing. And yeah, that's a great point, fishing to your strengths, because you do that sometimes, don't you? When I think about feeder fishing, there's some great bream anglers and there's some great people who can catch lots of small fish.
Yes.
And the guy who's a bream angler is pointless him imitating the small fish angler. Michael Buttwalder's a great small fish angler, Adam Wakeling. Then you get Gareth Lambert, who is an amazing bream angler, and he's confident, he applies himself and goes, that's how I'm going to win, and he does. And it doesn't always happen vice versa, does it?
And I don't want to just give yourself and the people watching the information for this venue. That's what I think is key. Like, I could tell you to go and fish a cage feeder over there and you'd do it better than anyone. But that's not really going to work anywhere else.
No.
You'd be method feeder fishing everywhere else. So I thought, probably let's not worry about the feeder today.
Brilliant.
But the bomb and pellet, 2/3 of the way, 3/4 of the way, however far we can comfortably get our bait today, bomb and pellet will work on any carp fishery.
Brilliant.
So I think if we look at that today, I think that'll be and it's working here as well. You know, it does win matches. So I think bomb and pellet will be really effective today. So I think that will cover that side of the lake nicely, whilst giving us a positive option. And then on the pole, I think we should just concentrate on a short pole and a margin. I think those two spots, short pole's brilliant here.
Yep.
4 to 5 metres. It's a good place to start and it's a good place to end.
Brilliant.
So my thinking is we'll have a good start short, hopefully, whilst priming that bomb, and then hopefully we'll catch several fish short, and then by the time that's sort of petering out, our bomb will be nicely ready.
Yep.
So we thought about, and then that maybe should get us through the middle part of our session, fishing the bomb, working that. Then we can probably drop back in short when the time's right, and then hopefully we'll have a final bonanza down here where that can be the difference in, you know, in a match situation.
Brilliant. Because I'm right in saying that this is the first of many of these days. The margin line is probably going to feature in most of them.
Most of them. I think it's an essential.
Big
And the
part.
short pole, to be fair. Those two, I think, you take them anywhere, they're going to do you proud.
And it was quite apparent to me then that I clearly want to do everything and cover everything, because that's me as a person. I don't want to go. I shied away from that because I didn't know how to do it. But ultimately, what you're saying is all in good time.
All in good time.
This is a driving lesson. We're just going to learn how to. We're not learning how to handbrake turn yet, are we?
And
We're just
like you say, 5 hours. I really think that we can end up being busy fools, can't we? And it's clear to me today, and I know we've mentioned about watercraft in the past on other videos and on our coaching day that we did. Today, there's not a million fish on the top. There's an odd one kicking around, don't get me wrong, but the lake behind us, they're everywhere on the top.
And I've seen a bit of fizzing.
Whereas here, they look like they're in a feeding mood to me. And I know that's hard to explain why I think that, but the water's coloured straight away.
Yeah.
There's bubbles coming up. There's fish moving. They don't look they're not.
I fished a match
They
back
look
in
feedy to me.
April, decoy. When I got to my peg, I could see a lot of fish.
Yeah.
And they were surface fishing. As it happened, it were a feeder masters qualified, so it were very hard to catch them because we couldn't get in the shallow enough water where I were on Oak. And straight away, just because you can see the fish, don't mean that they're obviously easy to catch. And today, because we're fishing on the bottom, because that's what we've decided to do, because we think that's a great way to fish here, then it's good news for us that they're not all cruising around.
Yeah, and I just think that's like the bomb will satisfy your needs to get the catapult out and get us plenty of bait in, because you can be a bit more
And
adventurous
I can
with
cast
that.
my rod,
so
yeah.
you can keep casting in, and we can work a few things out with that, and then the two short lines, the short pole and the margin, will be bankers, I'd say.
Brilliant. So, just for clarity then, I'm fishing my bomb as far as I can find me 8mm pellets.
Yeah, so we'll shout the imaginary all in,
Yeah.
and I'll get you to fire some bait out.
So I've got to consider the wind.
Got to consider the
So,
wind, yeah.
but even if, let's say, we're fishing for an hour and the wind changed, they just fall where they fall, and the chances are the fish would
naturally
move.
you create a lovely big area with that.
Yeah.
Because obviously they fall at all different places, and you get this lovely big area. We'll see some fizzing and stuff, hopefully, and you'll love that. The bites are great.
And I can sit, and I can use my catapult,
Exactly.
which is really important.
But that, like I said, that's so transferable. You go to Makins, you go to Gold Valley, you go to Hallcroft. That bomb and pellet, the spray and pray,
Brilliant.
works a treat.
So the next thing to do, I suppose, is to plumb up.
Yeah, and have a look at the rigs.
Yeah, brilliant. Let's do that.
Right, Mick, we're going to get some rigs set up then.
Yeah. Well,
I'll pull my and brew.
I've actually done a bit of rig prep.
Yeah, you've done some lovely rigs, I've noticed.
Yeah. Well, listen, if the master and the pupil, I've got to behave myself, haven't I? So obviously we spoke, and specifically to here, but I just want to touch on whether it's specific for here. Obviously, I want to restart my whole rig tray basically, because I've had that bad habit of setting all sorts of different floats up in different sizes and with different line thicknesses. And when I looked at it, I'm like, have I got? And it starts to become confusing even to me.
It blows my mind.
Especially line thicknesses, because you said we're coming to Glebe, get some thick string on, which you referred to 23 exact, which is what I've tied these up to. So would that be the right main line to tie my rigs on for everywhere, or would you use lighter lines in other places?
I think, it is fair to say this is a particularly strenuous venue. I'm not saying you're going to catch millions of fish, but it is they're hard fighting fish. There's rocks and stuff in the margin, so we need the durability, which is the ultimate thing. I would use that main line for, if I'm carp fishing, that's what I'll use. And I think,
what do you mean by that?
As in, if it's a mix of F1s and carp, I'll probably use 20.
Got you.
Or maybe even 18 at times. But for this sort of just carp fishing,
out and out carp
fishing, I think you want fixed string, nice, reliable.
Do you think a lot of people, because I think I've always done that, I've just gone commercial fishing, it's carp, I've not considered the difference between carp and F1s. There's no F1s in this
No,
venue.
none at all, no.
Right.
And there's some token breeding, but they come along anyway.
Yeah, they'll just eat what you eat. They'll just feed.
You're not targeting them.
Right. Okay. So that's why we've gone for that. So I've retied a load of rigs, and you said tie some collets up, which is the slightly longer float compared to the other one which you told me to tie, which is a Fury.
Fury, yeah.
Both have got 2.5mm bristles in.
Yep.
And obviously some collet, a massive amount of input into the collet, and then the Fury, I think we're a collection of a few of our lads, which is deemed as being the perfect margin float.
Yeah.
That little bit shorter because it's shallower water.
Yeah, it's just all about proportion of the float to the depth of water. So we haven't plumbed it up yet, but we're hoping to find less than 3 foot in the margin. 2.5 foot would be ideal. And the last thing you want is a float that's 8 inches long in that depth of water. I'm not saying it would put the fish off or anything, but it's all about proportion sometimes, isn't it?
I get that. I'm like that.
Yeah.
The deeper the water, the longer the float. Longer the float.
Yeah. So I think if you were to use the collet down the edge, just look a bit out of place, I think, in my head.
Slightly unbalanced.
Yeah, slightly unbalanced for what you're trying to do.
Brilliant. Which is why they've got the same thickness tip, but it's just all exaggerated and all.
Like the collet's ever so slightly longer in the stem and the tip.
Got you.
Naturally, when we're fishing out in the pond, like further out, I like to leave plenty of float showing so that we can
read
You're going to
what's
get a few indications and that. That
right,
helps us.
brilliant. And so I tied up 0.4 and 0.5 collets,
Yep.
because that should cover us for
The depths that we're going to find today.
on this venue. And then some 4x14s and some 4x16s in the Fury, because ultimately it could be between 2 and 3.5 foot.
Yeah, I think there's some pegs on this venue where you could get over 3 foot, so you probably look to use the 4x16, because what we're trying to achieve with that, we're trying to pin it in the bank. So we're trying to find it. We're going to use the weight down in the line to get it against the bank, and then when them big carp come mooching around, we haven't got a float that's going to be doing all this business where you could foul up fish. We don't want to do that. We want to hook them in the mouth, and using the float to pin it up against the bank. That's why we're using that extra weight.
That's one of the things I think I always had in my head, that nice shallow margin float would be quite light, 412s, possibly in 410s, but they're too flirty.
Too wafty, yeah, too wafty. And it may be that 414 is too light, Mick, when we get fishing, but I think that is my go-to.
Because that was my next question. Why 414s and 416s in the armoury? Because I've actually rigged both sides
you've got
up.
both. Yeah, basically, you can, obviously this is a big open venue, isn't it? It does get windy here. It's nice, and when you've got them big chops on, you need more stability, you need more weight. So that's why we've got the 4x16.
So not particularly because a deeper swim, but that would apply as well.
It would apply, yeah.
So we've just covered it back.
Yeah.
So would you ever have a 412s and 410s set up for the Glebe for a margin float? You wouldn't.
I don't even have them. Don't even carry them.
You don't carry them.
Don't carry them. When I'm margin fishing, I have that in a 4x14 and a 4x16.
Brilliant.
I have four winders in my box, 2 of each.
Nice and simple.
Nice and simple.
Great stuff. Better start plumbing up, haven't we?
Yeah. We're going to start with the sort of 5 metre line.
Yeah.
Because this is an interesting thing, Mick, the 5 metre line. Because I think it probably rarely is 5 metres that you actually end up fishing.
Well, I'm going to throw something in here, because I'll tell you what I've noticed. That people say top 2 and 2.
Top 2 and 2, yeah.
So for the people that aren't aware of what that means that's a top 2.
Yep.
And then 2 pieces of your pole.
Yep.
Top 2 plus 2. Which is different on different poles, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm going to leave that on for the time being.
Yeah, because I think that'll be good to demonstrate the different depths as well, because...
So I've just got a rough feel. I'm just going to pull that up so that we can see what we're doing. Just drop that down, because we'll be using that when we're...
Spray and praying.
On this bomb. So, just while we're doing that, I've not set these at any kind of sort of shotting pan. I've thrown some, on this particular one, I've thrown some number 8 stots on.
Yeah.
Because, as you touched on, you like a bit of float showing. I'm just pulling that back today, because now that's a nice, comfortable distance to fish. Well, I didn't quite do that as much. I know you like your floats for a bit, which is not the natural thing for me to do. What I also need to remember is to bring a pole sock. Very important. Yeah, I like to have my float set down a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm just
in a place.
So I tell you what, straight away, what I'm thinking here is that we're getting quite deep.
Yes.
I'm
glad you said that.
So of course I'm pushing my float out, because what I'm doing is I'm going to top 2 and 2, because that's what we made in tackle shop said. Oh, well, you got to leave top 2 and 2, but
it's not always the place.
Top 2 and 2 is there, and my float's just under water. But if I put top 2 and 2 by just swinging my rig round, my float stood out of the water. I can see the bottom of the float.
Yep.
So, are we looking for a depth, or are we looking for a distance?
I think, right, just put your float out a bit further, mate. Let's just keep going and just show where the bottom of the fully at the bottom of the
So
slope.
I've gone to another section, so that's my top 2 and 3.
So I think you're pretty much at the full depth there, aren't you?
Yeah, and that's only looking at that.
And then
The float's
come all the
going
way
about
back, like
3 or 4 inches.
like in increments back.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty flat there. Yeah.
Back onto that.
We're just starting to come out of the depth now.
Yeah, just
so. I think we need to come even closer in, because I think you want to be up on the hard bottom. I do.
So that's popped up by half a float, and then my float sat out the water.
Yeah.
Sorry, you just said harder bottom.
Harder bottom, yeah. To start, because we're going to start the session here, I think we just want to find a spot that's nice to fish. We're not worried about the depth as much yet. We just want to find a nice rock hard bit of bottom to fish on.
So my top 2 and 2 lines now become me top 2 and 1 1/4.
Exactly. This is why I said 5 metre line, because it's never. I can't remember the last time I fished top kit in 2 sections because it's
it's too
too
far.
far. Yeah,
It's too far. On this particular venue.
It could be perfect on others. Spring
So-
Vale is very very shallow in the edge, for instance.
And sometimes you have to go a bit
Sometimes you have to
further.
go a little bit further, yeah.
Because of course, straight away, which is why I hear people talk about depths, and depths are massive.
Massive.
Every bit of fishing I do, depth
Like when
is
you talk about
everything.
feeder fishing, you're always mentioning to me,
Yep.
"Oh, I found 20 foot here. I needed to find 25." Or I found,
Massive differences, because it's different levels that the fish want to feed at. But there's another element that's been thrown in here. Because we're pole fishing, we have got the option or the ability to find the bottom and the texture of it. But of course, I think, let's be fair, we don't all know, but I'm aware that as it goes down onto the bottom, you get more of the sort of silt that settles there. But on the slope, that's naturally hard because the silt's running away from you.
Yeah, I was just watching you drop that plummet and then you can feel it's going down a crack in it. Look at that. Look.
Oh yeah,
Beautiful.
it's
Look at
donk.
that. Donk.
Yeah, that's a 30-gram Cyclops,
That
and
looks perfect,
it's rock hard. And I know that from when I fish commercials in the winter for silverfish like Allcroft.
See, it's not actually that silty there yet, interestingly. But you can see it.
No, there's a little bit
There
more
is,
silt there. I
yeah.
can feel it. It's landing a little bit softer.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that if I went out to 13 metres, it'd be quite soft.
Plugging in there.
Yeah.
So we aren't.
Brilliant. So I'm going to lose that section for the time being.
And this is where things like marker tape for your section, they're so important these days. Electrician's tape or whatever, or even use our kit marker. Put a little band around your pole.
Yeah.
Because these fine margins of plumbing up are so important. They really are.
So I'm near to where I want to be.
Yep.
So what I'm actually going to do, stop me if I'm doing the wrong thing, I want to cut my line down so that I can be more accurate.
Yep.
Because. So how much of a lash do I need?
I always like, because we're going to fish a bomb today, you've got to consider we might have our catapult in our hands at times to feed the bomb.
Okay.
So the last thing you want is a little tiny line like this, because every time you feed with a catapult you're going to knock your float. Ultimately we've still got to try and focus on what we're doing at that time.
Yeah.
So I like a little bit longer line, a foot, maybe even 15 inches, just to give me a bit of play when I've got that catapult in my hands and I'm feeding the bomb.
That makes complete
and I'm not
sense.
knocking the float all the time.
Yep.
So I always think a foot to 15 inches.
Because of
is
course
ideal.
it's presumptuous to say that we need a long lash. Yeah, that's probably about 14 inches. So I'm just going to trim that down.
Yeah, in an ideal world, you'd have a lovely little short one, but ultimately we're trying to fish 5 hours here today, and that bomb could be just as important as the short pole, and we've got to give ourselves the chance to feed it.
And that's interesting because, of course, I think what happens is that, and this is the whole point of what I'm saying, I'm aware that short lash is brilliant, and so therefore I'm going to presume that that's the right thing to do. But you've straight away, with a bit of experience, gone, yeah, but don't forget you're going to try and flick pellets as far as you can, which is 30 metres, and you can't do that with a short lash.
No, because you're constantly knocking your float, ruining what you're trying to do anyway. So we've got that float length off, haven't we, yet, to come off, 3 or 4 inches off.
Yeah. So that's up that slope. I'm just going to come a bit short onto me.
There's every chance you would catch them there, Mick.
And that's come up about another 4 or 5 inches.
Yeah.
So we know that we're on a bit of a slope.
But it's not like, it's important to say, it's not a cliff face. We've got a lovely sort of gradual slope, really.
So it winds off slightly off this way at the minute. So I'm actually just going to go to the side a little bit to make life easier for me. Just off to right by a few degrees. And I think that's about the distance we're going to fish. So I'm just going to mark that. Is that what you were saying, isn't
One
it?
thing I always think, because I used to try and be really clever, I'd be like, all right, I'll tell you what I'll do, I'll fish my 5 metre line and I'll do it down here in between the pegs.
So you could get to this section?
No, so it give me more room and get me away from the other anglers and all that kind of business.
Yeah.
But what I tell you what happens on commercial fisheries, everyone fishes right in front of them. So the bottom naturally gets cleaned.
Yep.
Whereas up here there might be sticks and leaves and all sorts of business going on. Whereas here, it tends to be deeper in front of you, where it's obviously been worn away over time.
That makes sense.
And I've tried to be clever so many times and doing it over here and all that.
I've seen that at Allcroft, because that's a place to do fish at winter, but it's completely different fishing to this, because it's a silverfish, and you can see where the light's good.
Yep.
It's either a dark patch or a light patch.
And it'd be deeper.
It's deeper.
Yeah.
Where people have constantly fit, you can just see where
You can
people
imagine
fish.
if everyone's throwing 8mm pellets in or 6mm pellets in there, it's just the bottom's going to be lovely,
getting
isn't it?
cleaned.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So I'm using, there's a pallet across here, I'm just using that as my marker. So how deep do I want my rig?
As in?
How much over depth?
Over depth.
Yeah.
I look at that one.
I
love having the body and the bristle out. So just plumb up, so the body of the float is just out of the water.
Yeah,
Which
makes sense.
I think that's just a lovely way to fish. It just works really well, that does.
Yeah, because my limited knowledge is, if you're too far over depth,
That's it, you got it, look.
you foul up fish. But you've got to be careful to make sure that your bait's on bottom.
Exactly.
And I'm just leaning forward, because one thing I see a lot of people do is they don't come back to the same position all the time, and therefore if you're fishing on some kind of slope, you've got to make sure you know where your rig is, which is why I presumed that, and probably everybody else does, is that you need a short lash, the line between your float and your pole tip, so you can keep your float on line, which is why I've gone to right a little bit to make sure I can get my line behind me. So you're saying you'd want it plumb to about there where that is.
Perfect.
Whereas when you come back, it just comes up. So I'm just about an inch over depth, aren't I? More than what I need to be.
Yeah. And we'll pop some back shots on your rig, which keeps you in contact with your float.
Okay.
But like I say, I really do think we're going to catch on the bomb today, and an hour of good feeding with that while we fish shore.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Will put us in good stead for the rest of our session.
So first thing I'm going to do is mark my depth.
Yep.
So here's one. Where do you mark your float? Do you mark it to the depth or to the top of the bristle?
No, I like to mark it to where I've plumbed up to.
Me too. Yeah.
That's what I like. Because I get confused otherwise.
Brilliant. I were an inch over depth then, so I'm just going to pull that.
Yeah, I get all confused with me then.
Yeah. So I like to mark the depth of the water, not the top of my bristle.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
so I know for a fact from the bottom of my pole to where my mark is, that's the exact depth of the water. Perfect.
That rig's going to work lovely.
Shotting patterns.
I like 3-inch intervals with my shot. When I'm fishing hard pellets, you do catch a lot as it's just touching down. So I'm fully convinced they're watching them down.
Okay. So I've put a 4-inch hook length on it.
Yeah.
Is that the right hook length?
I like a 6 for carp.
Ah.
Just again, I think a lot of it is you get a lot of visual feeding with carp, and a lot of it's on the drop. So I don't like to have my last dropper too close. But you can move.
So
I should
have my drop at 6 inches from bottom then, from my hook.
Yeah.
Okay. And then 3 inches. 3 inches. And 3 inches.
Yep.
So it's just a nice spread.
I love that.
Makes sense to me.
I say it might only happen 2 or 3 times in a session, but 2 or 3 fish at the end of the day that you've caught extra because your pellets come in nice and slow.
So straight away, obviously you could say, well, it doesn't matter how long your hook length is because you can put that shot up there. But I reckon, am I presuming right here that you like to have the knot of the hook length to hold your bottom shot against, so it don't keep moving, which is mine's going to do because I've got a 4-inch hook length. What's really interesting is that the ones that I tied, the hooks that I tied for this, I actually tied them long because I know it's a 20-inch hook length limit on a feeder.
Yeah.
So I've tied a load of hooks and I've tied them all to 20 inches because I weren't sure what it were going to be. And I've already chopped this one down when I set the rig up to 4 inches because I presumed that was the right thing, so I've learnt some more already. So 3-inch hook lengths, never on a pole?
Only for F1s, shallow.
Right, okay.
Not for me, not for carp. I do think like a little bit of play in your rig's a good thing, as in without any shot on. Even when you're fishing in the margins, I think you can have a bit of movement down there, as in the bait's got a little bit more freedom.
Yeah.
charming. My bag's just fell over. Yeah, for me. And I also think it's quite strong. I think a short hook length can be a bit not as strong.
So before I go putting that there, Backshots, talk to me about them,
Yep.
because that's not a natural thing for me.
No, it's
Number eights?
It's a must. Yeah, number 8. 3 number 8s, about 4 inches above your float.
So
I think they're an absolute must, Mick, for all rigs. Because we're using such thick line, what happens is if you haven't got a back shot on, you get this sort of sail effect where you get the winds catching it. We've got a bit of a crosswind today, not a lot. So you get this sail, and it's naturally just pushing your float through, a bit awkward, ruining what you're trying to do. Whereas with them back shots, it fights the wind, and I think it's when you're using thick main lines like this, it is essential, really is.
So it's not about keeping it tight, it's about controlling
Controlling your float. For me, anyway, I think it's
I've used Backshots in the past for natural fishing. 4 inches.
I think that looks good, that.
Ian Bowman, good friend of mine, good friend of yours.
Yeah.
Brilliant angler. I think it was New Junction Canal. A place that's really affected by wind. He finished up with a swan shot on.
Yeah.
Really long piece of line, and hold on to your back shot and let all that line between your back shot and your pole tip do all the work, and your float just sat still. And presentation was paramount, and he was a master at that. Just a great fisherman.
It's all come from that. It really has.
So I think a lot of people struggle with the old back shot thing.
I mean, that looks great.
But obviously I can see straight away. So you just hold it just above water like that?
Just above the water, yeah.
Yeah, and it just helps you to control it, doesn't it? Even I like that.
Yeah, you've got that. You can't, even though you've got a longish line, you quite direct your float still.
Yeah, because everything's tight.
Yeah, it's tight.
Well, I know what I'm doing.
I think you're going to catch loads of fish on that.
Margins.
Margins.
I've got a massive question.
Go on.
Which side do I fish on?
Put the plummet on and we'll find out.
So not the side that I'm most comfortable at?
No, because, I mean, just taking this rig for instance, that side's quite overgrown.
Yeah.
Which I bet you're probably more comfortable fishing on that side.
Yep, every time.
But this side's all lovely and broken down, so I'm going to say that this is probably going to plumb up the best. Because there's a reason, isn't there, why everyone's keeping this one nice and trimmed.
It's been manicured.
Yeah, so we're going to look for sort of
Yeah, you're right. That's fresh.
2 to 2.5 foot.
Okay.
We're looking for a little sort of flattish area that we can fish on.
Yep.
In that sort of 2 to 2.5 foot, 2 foot ideally. And I'm willing to bet that it's down there because there's a reason why this peg is broken down.
Let's have a look.
And because this on the other side, the vegetation's pushed out, it might be a bit deeper. So
Because
depth's everything in the margins. If it's uncomfortable, but it's the right place.
I've seen that when we've been out fishing
I'm
together.
often fishing this side, and it's uncomfortable, but it's the right place to be.
And that's the thing. That's what's the sort of thing that spurred this series on for me. Sorry, because this series has come about because I am genuinely like, it's the little decisions that I just can't quite get my head around. So most people want to fish the side that they're comfortable on.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to say that they're also looking for the nearest hole they can get to.
Yep.
So the closer to them they can fish, the better. But I'm looking down here and it's about 6 or 7 metres. That looks like there's a lovely,
Definitely,
which is where everybody's been, hasn't they? So,
been here before?
I mean, I'm away from bank there, but that's...
And this is where, the modern top kits have got depth markers on them.
Yeah.
They are not a gimmick, them. They are genuinely
So you
good,
set your
good
float before
idea.
you go.
And if your top kit hasn't got them on, it is worth marking your top kits for depths. Because what looks like 2 foot could easily be 3. And the deeper the water is, you can often foul hook them. I mean, that just looks...
I think that's a man-made margin. It's perfect, isn't it?
Come back a bit, mate. It's just sloping away a little bit.
It's a little bit, but it's nice.
Yeah. And then what is it coming right? I can't quite see. Is it coming up there?
Yeah, that is. I'm just going to stand up. And it's actually a really steep slope, watch.
Yeah.
So I'm dropping my plummet on it and it was just sliding down.
Yeah. And then you've got that lovely bit there.
Yeah.
That's the spot there. That in between the bottom of that slope, I can see it there. That little bit there.
Yeah.
Looks fantastic.
Yeah, because it just comes up quite sharp there.
Yeah. Which is good because that gives you something to butt up against.
So how? Yeah, good point. So on bottom it's like that, and then it goes like that.
So you can imagine that like that. If you can fish in that little crease.
So just a rule of thumb then, you don't always have to be super tight at bank.
Look, if you can fish against the bank, it's better. It is better. But if you're fishing on that, it's so hard to fish on a slope like that. You've got to imagine you put your bait there, it could all be down here. It's so hard to fish on a steep
So don't
slope.
become these are the things,
Yeah.
because it's like, oh no, you need to fish tight at bank, tight as you can. Well, all of a sudden then I'm trying to fish tight at bank and it's a slope and it's impossible.
It's so hard.
Because I'd question myself, you see, I'd be thinking, well, he said I need to be tight at bank. And I mean, a lot of people like to, I mean, there's a definite steep, I can actually see my plummet running down that.
Yeah.
It's actually falling down it. So
If your plummet can't stick there, your bait can't. It's got no chance, has it?
no.
So,
No.
so we've got to think about the job. If it's a steep slope, no, we need to come away from it a bit.
And how much line do I need on bottom?
Again, I would start exactly how we plumbed up before, just the float. This the body showing,
Yeah,
and we'll work from there.
brilliant. And how much of a lash do we need on this rig?
10 inches.
10 inches?
10 inches, yeah.
Yeah, because we need a bit more control.
We need a bit more control. We've got to be mindful of the fact that fish are going to come in, they are going to move us about a bit, and we could get a bit of wind and stuff later. We're not sure yet, so we need to be able to pin it against that slope what you just found. We're trying to hopefully pull that float in against it.
Brilliant. So here's the thing that I always forget, or you've got to be mindful of, and worth mentioning to everybody, is that cut your line down, get your lash right before you mark your depth.
Yeah, because of the stretch.
Yeah, it's a massive amount of stretch. With the
And also
stretching the elastic.
Plumb up first before you cut your line down, because a number of times I've cut my rig down first and not had enough line.
Exactly. So I'm just going to tie that off.
But I mean, that looks like a lovely depth for what we're going to try and do today with the ground bait.
Yeah.
I think so. That's going to work a treat. It just looks perfect down there, doesn't it? And,
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a little bit uncomfortable, but that just looks.
Well, that's an interesting point, because the problem with fishing is most people want to just have a nice day, nice and comfy. But of course, the fish don't care whether you're comfortable or not. They want to be where they want to be. And I've seen this with my kind of fishing. You might only want to fish 20 metres with a feeder, but if the fish are at 50 metres,
Yeah, you've not got a lot of choke, have you?
drop that. No, you're going against the grain, and it ain't going to work for you.
But yeah, I mean that just
That's
looks
serious,
beautiful.
that elastic.
You like it? You got the pink?
Oh yeah.
I'd love to know what depth that is. It's got to be 2 foot 6.
I want to tell you in a minute, because
2 foot 4, perhaps.
right, because quite a bit of stretch in that, a bit of tension under that. Now I know for a fact that my depth was there, so I've allowed that inch.
And also,
Tighten them rubbers up, push them up.
if we do
Nice
come
and
to
neat.
using double worm hook bait later in the day,
Yeah,
just be mindful of, we might even go a little bit more over depth, just because it's such a heavy bait.
I've got you.
We need a bit more
Yeah,
slack.
I've actually put that's a size 12 911, just a spade end. The other one I've put a 14 eyed on, and it's the only thing I didn't ask you about was hooks.
Hooks, yeah.
So I tied some 16s to our 020. I've tied some 14s to 020.23, and then I've tied some of these 14s and 12s in spades, because I think that'd be right for bunches of maggots. Because I presumed.
Yeah. The 12 is pretty much all I put on these days.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
shotting pattern?
A bulk this time. Because we're trying to achieve something different here. We're not worried about the bait coming in slow or anything like that. We're just trying to get stability with this. We're trying to get it up against that bank, that lovely little bit that you found. We're trying to get our rig as tight to that as we can and not have it wafting around. So we need the bulk to get us down, bossing the swim.
Bossing it. I've heard you use that term. So how far away from the hook do I want?
Again, 6 inches I always go for.
And of course, typically I've put 4 inch hook length on.
That's going to work, isn't it?
Yeah, so if I just drop that down an inch or so. So, my span between my little finger and my thumb is 10 inches. So that's 20 inches. It's 29 inches deep.
What's that in old money?
That is 2'5".
Yeah, perfect.
Brilliant.
I think we're gonna have a lovely little session with that. And that's it for the pole.
Great stuff.
We don't
Dead
need
simple.
we don't need to set anything else up for that. Final string to the bow then, Mick.
Back in my comfort zone, and I've got a rod and reel in my hand.
I think, like, if I was like you, going into a commercial situation or wanting to go into a commercial fishery, I'd be thinking the bomb is going to be a big part of my game.
Okay,
because I think it's going to suit you down to the ground. I think you're going to love being able to fire the bait in. You can be nice and patient, work at it. I think you're going to love this.
That's what you referenced earlier, which is fish to your strengths.
Yeah.
And I think each angler's got his own style of fishing, haven't they?
Yeah.
And I like a little bit more of a paced type of fishing, nice and steady.
Yeah, I think you're going to love this.
Well, dead simple, isn't it? I've got a 10-foot rod.
Yep.
I've got 8 pound detection on there, and I put 8 pound. I like a 6 pound.
Yeah, me too.
But it's funny, I'll tell you what I started to do to try and simplify things for me. I put 8 pound on my 10-foot rods, and I put 6 pound on my 11-foot rods. And you might go, what on earth is all that about? And that's because I always think that it's easier to cast a 6 pound line than it is an 8 pound line. And I think, because of the diameter. So a 10-foot rod is not something I'm going to use for long distance, so therefore I'll up it. It's a bit like you were saying earlier about, well, if I could get my pellets to there, I would do, and if I could get my groundbait out there, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So I do it accordingly. But the one thing that is slightly different, and this is how you told me to rig it up, is you said an inline bomb.
Yep.
Which is, I'm using this ICS system. What size bomb? 30 or 20?
No, I like a 15 or a 20. I like.
Do you?
If I can get a 15 there,
I'll put that 30 away.
Yeah, I like a 15.
Well, I'm going to compromise and go for a 20 because I know I've got one at the top of my box here.
A big thing with the bomb and pellet is the noise, Mick. And I always feel like if you can match your bomb to the pellet noise,
that's interesting.
It's quite nice. You often get quick bites when they actually land and they're on your bait.
Yeah.
You often get you chuck your finger, you plop, gets to the bottom, round it goes, and I think it can work really well. That can. I like what you've done there with your bomb with that little sleeve. I like that.
It's.
I'm going to take that myself. I'm going to nick that.
I've had to do that because of elasticated stems.
No, I like that. Good idea.
I've tied up these 14 911s to our 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what
I'm right in saying that's the. I know Sam Collett comes here a lot, and he said to me, make sure you've got proper gear on here because they pull.
Ruthless. He always says it's ruthless, and he's dead right. He's dead right. It's funny because I don't want people to just think that it's one of them places where it's just an absolute fish race, because it isn't that. It's just the fact that they're hard fighting fish. They're very healthy fish. They're very happy fish, and they pull like mad. So we're starting.
So what are we starting on?
That lovely short line. That's the only thing we're going to do.
Brilliant.
Now what I would do, Mick, get your big pot.
Yep.
And put 6 pellets in it.
Okay, precise. I should have wet that first because I've seen you do that. Why do you do that?
Just to help, again, because we're feeding so few pellets, we're just trying to get them through that surface skim and get them as accurate as we possibly can. Just helps them get through that surface skim. To be fair, the modern pellets are pretty good, to be fair. So the reason I do this is as a marker
Right.
to throw my pellets. So I'll put that nice little thing, rest my pot on the water like that, and just throw a couple of pellets at it, and just get myself a little bit of a feel for throwing the bait in, just like that.
Got you.
And
No, I get that.
it works in my head.
I get that.
And then I would now also straight away I'd be firing an 8mm across there.
All right, give me a chance. Oh, I tell you what, I didn't realise it was going to be this hard work. Were you? Bit of a slave
That's how it works sitting here drinking this tea, you know. Not
yeah,
fishing.
It's like a day off.
Not fishing.
The
That's me sat here, you know.
sun's out as well. That's great. We're just going to band a 6mm, I presume. Do you pick a bigger one out or a smaller one?
The middle of the road one, mate.
Of course you do.
The middle of the road.
With the average?
The average. I'm average Joe, aren't I? And it's an average Joe pellet. I think that works nice.
Oh, fair play.
Quite interesting, the sun's come out, hasn't it? It's got quite warm, hasn't it?
Isn't it just?
I can't wait for you to catch one.
So, are we laying rigging? Are we lowering it in?
We're laying it out. Because we've got them strung out shots, I like to flick it out and let it come and rest against that slope. That's kind of how I like to do things.
Straight away, we've got to have that slightly longer lash than you might anticipate, because when I'm stretching and reaching around for my pellets,
you knock your float.
Yeah, and that longer
so
lash.
even though it moved your pole, then it didn't actually affect the float.
Yeah.
So you've just got that little bit of leeway. And it is worth saying, I often like, once I've shipped in, putting another pellet on, I'll quickly do it before I do this. You know, I'll quickly feed them 8mm out there and then get on with my pole fishing.
So you can concentrate on your float. Yeah, because I've had a dink there that I weren't settled.
Yeah.
And clearly there's a fish there. So what about feeding this? Because I've seen you frugal feeding.
Yeah.
We're firing 2 pouches of pellets out there, and we've put no pellets in.
Because I always feel like the start of the match is very much just suck it and see sort of situation, especially on your pole lines. It may be that they want a lot of bait, but it might be that they don't. And often you can get off to a really good start in your session by just literally just trying to catch a fish. You know, they've already hit, often in the start of the match, you'll be setting up and there'll be an odd one cruising around by your feet. They're often there. But on the flip side to that, you also have to make something happen. So I never leave it too long. Like now, I would already be considering.
Well, I was just about to say,
flicking 2 or 3 pellets in.
I'm quite not a lazy angler, but I'm quite a paced, steady away, and I'm happy to sit and watch me float. And of course, because would you lift your rig down and lower it back in?
I would, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd actually lift the whole rig out and let it come back in.
Would you really?
Yeah.
Push it out.
Push it out, yeah.
Yeah.
Let it come back in under its own steam.
So I'm naturally holding my float up in air because I like to just.
You see how that backshot's working?
Yeah, it's holding my rig.
It's doing your work for you, isn't it?
Yeah. It's so tempting to have it underwater, which you can, I suppose, if you want. But for me, my immediate thing is I want to watch it, and having it just above surface, you know where it is then, don't you?
There you go.
That'd be a fish then.
That were a lovely bite, wasn't it?
Lightning reactions.
Clunk. There we go, blue.
Do you know the one thing that I'm going to say, and I've just been reminded of it, that carp bites, the speed, not the speed of them as in, but it just whoop, like that.
I mean, that was unmissable, wasn't it?
It were perfect.
You know, we've got to imagine.
Oh, give me some credit, unmissable, charming. I thought I'd done really well hitting that.
It was beautiful. Hey, and it come. How long would that rig settled up then? 10 seconds, 15 seconds?
Max.
Again,
max.
So in my head, that fish has seen it coming in.
Yeah.
And caught its eye. It might have only just caught its eye. But you see it on these underwater things, don't you?
I see what you mean about these carp.
It'll be something that just piques their interest, they'll change direction. Yeah,
that's great.
He's pulling the blue through.
He has, hasn't it? So your little method, what you have.
Oh, no.
There he goes. He was foul up, Joe. I can see a scale. I just need to point out, we didn't mention that, did we? The fact that I've seen you doing it, so I've done it. Which is,
Yeah,
you have this trail of elastic,
Oh.
and yeah, this is scale. Look, it's a medallion. I'm going to stick that to my chest
Yeah.
and wear it like a sheriff's badge. Look, here it is. I'm going to save that as a token. Obviously, didn't get it quite right, did I?
Oh, it looked great, that.
It did. I thought we'd mastered it. See, you would have caught that in mouth, wouldn't you?
I don't know. There's a few fish about there.
Shots, and it looked like a perfect bite.
No, I'm gobsmacked.
And it might have been.
Might have caught it on the way past.
You know, it's funny if you didn't come back with a scale, you'd almost swear blind that with your mouth, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Which is interesting because.
Remember your bomb.
I think did I just beat him to it then?
I always remember watching a Fishermania and Jeff Ringer was sat with Steve, and every time he forgot to feed, he tapped him with a stick in a Fishermania final.
That's fantastic. I finished up with a big bump on his head. Where am I? I've lost myself. Feed first or put your rig in first?
Put some bait in now.
3 or 4 pellets, or not that many?
Yeah, no, 3 or 4 pellets. Let's stick with that.
I made a bad job with them.
Yeah, but that's...
and I've done it, Anta. I know what you're going to tell me off for feeding so much.
No. I think we're going to be all right today. And I do think when you're feeding by hand like this, if they don't go round your float, throw some more in.
Yeah.
It's really important, that is.
Yeah, which is obviously naturally as an angler, I knew that they weren't accurate enough, so straight away I've thrown some more in. But you've got to be careful.
Yeah, you've got to be careful. We're not throwing handfuls in yet.
No.
Might be time for that later. You know, up in it. But if you do throw 3 in and you're not quite happy with them, throw 3 more in. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gutted then because it looked perfect.
It did. Everything looked spot on. So what's really interesting, first thing that I'm thinking, which is the one thing that I've always struggled with this type of fishing is, and thank goodness we're feeding somewhere, because it won't be beyond the realms of possibility in a commercial match just to be fishing and not feeding anywhere else.
Yep.
Because of all this thing that I've heard, fresh ground, keeping your swim quiet. Fortunately for me, we're feeding out there because I need to feed somewhere, because I've got this urge that I've got to build another swim or stop the fish going to other people. Got to command them, which is an old bream fishing thing. Or if you're on a river, you chuck feeder out while you build your float line. So we're kind of doing that on here, which is great. But I've seen you guys just...
I think it's such
fishing one swim.
A time of year thing, that is.
Right.
We're still the fish are still sort of thinking about spawning. They've had a little go. And a lot of the time this time of year, they're not actually bothered about feeding until the latter part of the day. So actually leaving quiet parts of your peg is more effective than feeding them. Does that make sense? Giving them places to go and hide. When matey next door's firing bait everywhere and they're not really interested and the other guy is, you can leave that lovely quiet zone and you can really reap the rewards for that. But in August, it can be totally different, and that's the beauty of fishing, isn't it? Because so I'd be thinking about laying and feeding again now.
That's why carp confuse me, because they're very inquisitive fish, and what I mean by that is that you can mug them, and you can slap, and you can
Nice.
Rap noise, and it don't put them off. But then you need a quiet part. You swim.
Yeah.
It's kind of confusing.
Yeah, it's very confusing. I can see why it can be confusing for everyone, not least me.
So I'm anticipating that my pellets are somewhere near the bottom, and then I'm just lowering my rig to hopefully coincide.
To match up with them.
Is that?
That's in theory. That's ultimate, isn't it? If you can get your hook bait going down at the same time.
Yeah, which is not always an obvious thing, I don't think, for some people, because of course if we were...
that rig's fishing beautifully, isn't it?
It's sat perfect,
yeah, it is.
But then again, it should do, because
We've got the
I'm right in
kit
saying
on.
that this float were designed for
This exact venue.
here. Yeah, I see what you mean. I've just jolted my float, which might finish up foul looking at fish like that, and that you don't want that either, do you?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, that little movement what you just did there is not the end of the world. But it's when you do it with a little tiny line, and your float comes up out.
Oh,
of
you've
the
no
water.
chance, have you?
You've got no chance. No.
No.
There's plenty of fish about.
There's no fish moving,
Yeah,
isn't there?
no, there is.
I can see them out of the corner of my
There is.
eye.
And this, I mean, this is where the old 4 metre, 5 metre top kit and 2 thing comes in, because it might be, Mick, that where we're fishing is too deep.
Interesting. Yeah, because what we're in there, 4 foot,
Yeah, probably
it's 4.5.
4.5. Yeah.
Yeah.
And almost in the full depth. But we won't making rash decisions yet.
Now, and this is the other thing that, and I've seen this when I've been fishing with you, that because let's say that we're coming on a match here, the target weight's going to be over £100.
Yep.
But it could be £200.
Yep.
It could be more than that. It's natural for me to think I've got to catch one every chub, but that's not the case, is it?
No.
Because what do the fish average here?
I'd say they're £6 average, but you do get a lot of bigger ones. At, you know, the back end of the day.
Okay.
You know, you could catch £50 in 5 casts here. It's
As easy as that.
As easy as that. So
You ain't got to rush then, have you?
no, you ain't got a rush, but you still. Oh, yeah, nice,
That were a different bite
Very different
altogether,
bite,
weren't it?
lovely. That was nice. Lovely little dink, wasn't it? That one.
It were perfect, yeah. Almost like you could see it mouthing it. And that's not tearing off anywhere near
No.
the same as the last one, is it?
Very, very well behaved. Here we go.
Have I been a bit presumptuous breaking down?
No, I think you're going to get him. I think you gaffered him. He's felt the blue and he's like, nope, not today.
Brilliant. So of course it's a trend these days to net these fish as fast as you can, but I think I'm a bit old-fashioned in that respect, whereas I like to play them a bit more, and I've noticed the lads I like to bring the fish to me.
I do think people worry about that too much.
Yeah, because
Like some people, it's like a badge of honor, innit? Oh, I'll get them in faster than anyone else. But ultimately, you've just got to make that happen and get them in your net.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? And
yeah, because
I think people worry about it too much.
a bird in the hand's worth 2 in the bush, isn't it?
Exactly.
Ultimately.
They're big fish. I prefer to be nice and smooth. Do my best to land them all.
You can see them like you're sanding with these, can't you? There it is, look.
But he came in lovely, didn't he?
He did.
There you go, first one.
About £4. I'm saying, there's a thing. I've automatically gone about £4. That's a massive thing these days with this net limit job.
Yeah, no net limits is a big part of fishing.
I tell you what else I remembered. I need to put my wellies on instead of my shoes because I'm going to finish it with wet feet. And smelly socks and even smellier shoes. So I'm just going to...
It's net limits are a big part of fishing now, and a lot of matches are lost at that through bad estimating.
Yes.
So the glebe fish are quite heavy.
Easy to...
So like that, you
yeah,
think,
I've called it £4,
about
but it could have been
£4, but I would
£4.10.
always click £5 for something that I think's 4. And like the other week, I got all my nets within £1 of the limit. How good's that?
Did you really?
Yeah. Scalesman was like, blow me neck. It's pure luck, but it's just giving yourself that margin for error. Because if I could have been miles over.
I tell you what, I've just noticed something really interesting. Because I've fed, not happy with them. Because I've fed those 8 mils, I need to concentrate because I've just thrown two little fingerfuls of pellets in there, and neither of them were perfect. That were a dink. Giddy see.
No, it's all right. It's all right. I like to be busy with this. I have my rig going through a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm happy for that. Lifting and missing a bite, it's not a problem. You're giving yourself that little window opportunity again.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not.
So,
I hate just sitting there, mate.
Yeah, another little indication there.
It's a warm day. The fish are active. We can see them cruising around.
So what I was going to say is that I just noticed that because I fed my bomb line before I put my rig out, obviously I were more comfortable.
Yep.
And my pellets went further.
Did they?
Yeah, only a couple of yards.
You probably just...
Yeah, because I got more arm reach, you know, because I weren't trying to hold my pole at the same time. And I suppose that's probably, because I'm thinking about accuracy, because I'm obsessed by it, obviously. You do get that way, don't you? And I'm thinking, you've got to be careful there, because... But would you worry about spreading them pellets too far?
I think you've got to be relatively accurate as you can be. But an area is a strength of that method, I think, because it allows you to cast around a little bit. And I think the fish feed, like, moving around. I think you get... It encourages really confident feeding. Obviously, you don't want them scattered all over the lake.
No, because we're being super accurate here.
Yeah, but you can't do that on the wrong
If I'm missing my float by 10 inches, I feel like I've failed. But yet, I'm spreading them all over there. And that's the confusing thing about fishing.
Yeah, it's bad,
I've always said it about waggler fishing. When you're spraying casters or maggots, and you're trying to do them at 20 metres, they're a massive spread. But when you tap in bait out of a pole pot, it's super accurate, which...
I don't know if you've ever seen on the carp underwater films, though, Mick, when you've got a big spread of bait on a big flat bottom, the carp anglers like to spread the boilies around, and the fish are like that, moving around, and they're really catchable.
More comfortable, like that would definitely
fish, and you've got to imagine we've got a 20-inch hook length on, so we actually need them moving, otherwise they'll never tighten up to the bottom and up themselves. So we're trying to create this lovely big area where the fish are moving around.
It's interesting. Yeah, making them
really confident. They'll feed really confident.
Yeah.
You're actively moving around your swim. So I think be as accurate as you can. Try and get a far back marker. Bottom your catty out every time.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, so you're taking out a little bit of guesswork. Bottom your catty out every time, and you're gonna get a lovely spot there. And I'm already noticing we're getting a few blows out there, and we haven't been feeding it for long. It's gonna be lovely that when you get. Oh, that were a lovely bite, Mick.
That feels like a. It did feel a bit foul because
they were
a bit of a delay, weren't they? I don't know if I'm doing right here, but I'm actually going to feed while I'm.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah, because I didn't.
Great habit to get into that.
I didn't connect with the fish until my float were at least. Yeah, foul up, yeah.
So what I'm
about a foot off water
already.
Yep.
I think we maybe. Well, let's give it another go. But we've had 3 bites and we've fouled up 2.
Yep.
So I'm starting to think maybe we just need to think about coming into slightly shallower water.
Because you're saying we're foul looking because we're at the wrong depth.
Maybe. So maybe not quite comfortable feeding on the bottom there.
Okay.
For the amount of bait we're throwing in, we should be getting nice bites.
Yeah. And they're clearly snatching at the bait because that's why they look like bites.
Yeah.
Because
I'm perfect again.
Yeah. And I suppose there you go, you see, that's me as an angler trying to work it out. And I think this is interesting that I'm like watching me float and the type of bite, I'm trying to interpret that as to what's actually happening. Whereas when you see you float and it kind of just pulls away steady, you know for a fact that it's a fish that's obviously brushed against your line and you try not to strike at them, but the indications I've just had then,
they look bang on, didn't they?
Yeah, which I think the fish are moving and turning and trying to eat pellets, and that's even though they're brushing against his line, that's why we're getting what looks like a bite. And immediately,
it may be worth just trying something in a minute.
Okay.
Like throwing a bit more bait in. Let's just see if we can pin them down a little bit. That might be worth it.
Yeah.
Before we make any decisions on depth, let's just try experiment with the bait a bit more. Maybe we can, with like 2 handfuls of 10 or 2 feeds of 10, we might be able to get them down.
Got you.
It's certainly worth a try.
Makes sense.
It's not going to ruin the 20 pellets. Ain't going to ruin the swim or anything.
No, and that's an interesting thing because of course this is how my brain's working. That am I striking at the wrong indications? You know, because I've not got that sort of years of experience of striking at carp bites. I'm thinking, am I striking at the wrong things here?
No, I'd have struck at every one of them.
Right. And
foul up fish is a thing, mate. It's just one of them things. You can't let it ruin your day. You've got to just try and use the information to do something about it.
Yeah.
So let's give them a bit more food.
Oh, that would a bit more. That would you go again?
Yeah, go again. Let's see if we can get them down a bit. And if that doesn't work, then we've got to maybe look at our depth. And I'm quick to make a change as well. I think that's...
Yeah, you're a busy angler, aren't you? Whereas I've got a terrible habit of flogging a dead horse. But I actually think that comes with...
the style of fishing you do, isn't it?
Yeah, whereas sometimes you've got to be more patient. But carp are very reactive, aren't they? Or you have to be reactive to them.
It's reactive to them, yeah.
They'll do what they're hard to influence, I think, is what I'm noticing. You have to go to them and do what they want to do. Whereas if you're trying to herd some roach or some bream, the shoalfish, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you're not looking at shoalfish here, you're looking at
Individuals
catching
almost.
one fish at a time, which I think's massively fundamental to the different styles of fishing. And clearly what I struggle with, which is why I've tried to empty my brain today, and not that that's hard because there's not a lot in there, but and just go, right, fair enough, Sam, let's start from scratch. Let's look at it, and that's...
Oh.
Now that definitely looked like...
That was right, wasn't it?
Yeah, but for some reason it come off, and I'm going to say, I was going to say, I think the depth thing is massive because it nodded, and I remember the little bit of catfishing I've done. Remember years ago, when you were fishing shallow, when you hooked your fish, I think it was Tommy and Jamie Masson were teaching me down at Whiteacres. When you hook your fish shallow, depending on how they swam away, told you whether you were fishing the right depth. Because when you're fishing the right depth, you hook them and they just keep swimming. But when you hook them at the wrong depth, your pole went dump like that, just like that one did. But we had fed
A little bit more.
a bit more, yeah. Let's try that again, shall we? Or are you itching to move depth?
No, I'm not. I'm intrigued actually as to why we're...
Yeah, you just want to get out at pole, don't you?
No, I'm just interested to see what the answer is here. Because ultimately, there's no set way, is there?
No. I'll tell you what, these pellets are pretty...
They're going lovely then, aren't they?
Yeah, like marbles.
Yeah, they are nice. Yeah, that's not really worked, is it? They're slipping the bait a little bit.
No.
It's not. We're not actually getting many indications, which is what I'm finding confusing. Normally, when you're doing this, you're throwing your 3 pellets at your float, you get a little wobble. It's not really happening, is it, that?
No, it's not. And we put that bit
But
of
then, look at that look.
extra bait in. Yeah, that would just...
Which tells me it's not a bait thing, because if that amount where you just thrown in would have got them down, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering whether it is a depth of water thing that we've got a problem with here.
Interesting. Well, let's go through that, because I'm, so for me, because it's you and you're mentioning depth, I'm like, well, let's move. But I just, for the sakes of this learning curve that we're on, I'm just intrigued to have a couple more chucks just to prove that it's definitely wrong, because obviously we had a bit of interaction. Like as you said, I think we've had 4 bites, haven't we? And
lost 2, haven't we?
And chinned one. And all of a sudden we've upped the bait and the bites have stopped.
Yeah.
I always think, are these like, it's wrong to call them mugfish, innit? But these are the curious ones.
Curious ones.
Because the fact that they're so close to us, this early on in session, it's not like they've had confidence to feed, and it's the fact that they're obviously there, which is the thing that intrigues me about carp, that you can catch so close to you so early on.
Took me a lot of getting my head around it, Mick.
Because you were a natural angler before you started commercial fishing. But
I always just remember watching when I used to go to Woodlands Thirst, there were some guys who could fish with a top kit, and the top kit won, and it just felt so close to myself. I couldn't get my head around it. I'd have to fish I'd be naturally thinking, I need to fish top kit and 3, get a bit of distance, and it don't work like that.
No, because if we were fishing for bream on a pole, everybody want to be shipping 16 metres out if they could, wouldn't they, and getting as far away from bank. But they're different species, aren't they? And I think that's the thing about them, that the bit that has been my stumbling block, that you can't apply what you already know from a natural perspective.
It's a different thing
to carp fishing. I likened it earlier to, I know how to drive, but I won't be able to pass my driving test. I suppose it's a bit like you can drive a car, but you don't know how to drive a lorry, and you have to take a different test and lessons to be able to drive a big vehicle, and you do a small vehicle, and that's because it's completely different, completely different aspects. Well, these bites have just dried up.
Just dried up, and I don't know if you notice, there's quite a lot of fish bow waving now.
Yes. What? Go on then. What do you think? What are you putting that down to?
I just think they're in shallower water.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, we'll call this as last chuck then before we make a move.
Yeah.
Well, even good old sit on Jan's bream angler me can't sit there no longer. So, do we move us float by a depth that we think?
I reckon we want to try a foot shallower than that.
Okay. I'm going to just use my. So I need to be about there. I'm just going to put a little mark on my pole.
And it may be that we get even less indications, but it may be that when it does finally go under, it's where we need it to be, in the main.
Okay.
Put some teeter in this. If I was a full-time angling coach, I'd need
You'd need a
double XL flask.
You'd need a baby Burke on your peg. You'd have to have a
Constant boil.
I'll get a boil on. So I'm automatically going to just be thinking that's a lot shorter.
Yeah.
A lot shorter. So if I get me number 3 joint, I'm going to be fishing on a top kit. It's quite deep here, isn't it? Yeah. Look at that. So I'd have to be fishing on a top kit. You're saying, yeah, of course.
No, but yeah.
And that seems too close.
I think there's no wind today. I think that's too close.
Now
so we need to make a decision.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, because this is where I fall apart. Yeah, I'm like, I can't fish there.
If it was windy, and perhaps later in the session, I would happily fish there.
That's interesting.
Yeah. In the end of the match, when it is margin time, that can often be a really good line.
Yeah.
But I think at the minute they're not having it.
No, it's gone a bit flat, hasn't it?
It's gone flat. It's gone hot, and it's gone still. I think that's just too close. If there was a load of water movement and waves, you'd catch them there.
Yeah.
But we haven't got that at the minute, so we need to make a decision.
So what would you do in this scenario? Well, you're in a match.
I would try. Let's find the depth on what the kitten 1 is.
Yeah.
Let's find the depth there.
Which could be somewhere in between where we're fishing and where we think. Yeah. So
look at him, look. Look at that one, look. He's taking the mick, isn't he? He was gobbing on top.
How rude.
How rude. So let's see if we can find a nice little spot here. Off to one side. Yeah, oh yeah. Pretty flat, isn't it, there?
Yep.
So I can see your back shot. It's a decent chunk shallower, isn't it? And a bit closer in.
Yeah, off to that pellet. I'm just using that other pellet as a marker. Yeah, fairly flat.
Yeah. And it's worth, obviously the conditions is everything in fishing, isn't it? And I do want to quickly say, like, there are some days when the short pole isn't effective. You know what I mean? You can't. Not every day is the same.
And can that be condition orientated?
I think it's conditions. I think it's time of year as well. And like, we're sort of in this situation now where the fish are a bit spawny.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks great though. So I think we can get it cracked. We can get it cracked. I know we can.
Brilliant. And so straight away, this is exactly what I wanted, because I'm just going to put them 2 pieces of pole together.
You might need them.
Because
don't forget your bomb.
I don't want to forget.
Call me Jeff every time I say that.
That when you're fishing so close, you might get one that wants to
charge.
Go nuts. Yeah. No, because ultimately, if we just caught fish all the time, we wouldn't really learn anything, would we? And you have to catch fish to learn. I'm not going to say you don't, but your lessons come from when you make changes, in my experience, not when it just all goes to plan.
Absolutely.
Because how do you know that was the best way? You don't, do you?
I was like with the short pole thing. I always remember Hallcroft, going back to being comfortable. There's fish there just to your left. And I used to watch him fishing like this distance, and I'm thinking, it's such a big lake, that can't be right, but it is.
Because that's where the fish want to be.
The fish want to be, and you can catch them there.
I'm only going to feed 2 or 3 pellets because,
Maybe
as we're saying, we don't think they're coming to bait. And yeah, because it was motionless, weren't it? Ultimately, you don't want to sit there on the wrong method, doing the wrong thing all day, because you're match anglers and it's painful.
There you go. Look, you see it bang, it's dead then.
Yeah, you just realised he's hooked. Well, I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch, but he's decided to go for a swim. They don't half pull. Do you think it's because it's a big open lake and there's a lot of wind?
There's a lot of wind, they're healthy fish.
Yeah.
It's just a well-managed fishery. Fish are healthy, they're happy. And they're good fish, aren't they?
Oh, they're cracking fish.
You know, they're big fish. Oh. So that's worked, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
Straight away.
Absolutely.
And I think people...
And we've not fed a lot there, have we? That's back to the original plan.
Exactly. I think when you're natural fishing, you sort of give everything time to work because you're waiting for the fish to find the bait and settle over the bait. The commercials, it is different.
That's one of the things I've always struggled with.
A lot of people will keep feeding, thinking, well, I've got to keep that 5 metre one ticking over. But no, you haven't.
Yeah, well, did you notice I've not bit the line down on my rig because I'm straight away thinking, well, I might have to go back there because...
But you might. So that's not a bad move at all. But I think I'd love people to get that in their minds, you know, you can make a quick move and it will pay off.
Yeah, because this is the thing about commercials
fishing,
and carp fishing, that
beauty, that. Lovely, nicely done.
It's behaving itself, isn't it?
Nicely done.
Yeah, it's a lovely fish, that is.
Yeah, nice common.
Yeah.
I think he'd get
He's a stunner.
He'd certainly get £6 on the clicker, I reckon.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to pick him up, but I just wanted to lift him up so people could see what we were catching. The glorious
Was he
fish.
top lip, Mick?
Yes, he was. Yeah, absolutely perfect. Are we saying that's because we're fishing at the right depth, Joe? Are we jumping to conclusions yet?
Give ourselves a bit of a pat on the back there because we've made a decision.
Well, I think you can.
No, we've made a decision though because, and I think it's important to say we've actually thought about the job. So we went out, we fed frugally to start with, we caught one, but we lost 3. Then we tried to settle them down with bait, it didn't work. So rather than panic, we've just thought, actually, right, what's the next logical answer? It's too deep. You've made a decision, we've come into shallow water and you've caught fish straight away. We've actually thought about it, haven't we? Which is so hard for me because I'm...
No, of course. It's it'll come natural to you because you've been doing this a long time. Like you said, as a natural angler, you have to be more patient because ultimately you're piling bait in or putting some bait in and hoping that fish come and settle over it. There's a bit of wind just come in first now and pellets.
That might just help us though. So what, in your angling instincts then now, fishing, what are you thinking? Just had that one, had a quick response. Well, you missed a bite which looked like a bite.
Definitely, it was definitely a bite. You're like, right, spot on, we've got it a little indication there. I just put my rig back in, didn't want to feed because I've got it in my mind that they're not particularly chasing bait, they're being inquisitive and it's hard for me not to feed, which is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And I've just 3 pellets, caught one. And automatically, right, they're here, this is it, I've got it, you've put me on the right depth, it's in the right place, I can start putting bait in them and build a swim. But this is what I want to learn about this kind of fishing, is that I'm not trying to herd a shoal of bream where I'm going to catch them for the last 2 hours having fed like I might do at Ferry Meadows, for instance. It's picking off fish.
Yeah.
And that is an interesting thing that you've got to just get into your mind, that what am I trying to achieve? And ultimately, as the day progresses, you could probably just sit and be patient, the fish will come to you eventually.
Yeah.
But you as a match angler, me as a match angler, and as keen fishermen who want to, we're naturally competitive, aren't we? Yeah. We're naturally competitive.
I think...
And we're trying to catch as many fish as we can, which
Yeah.
I suppose most people think they are. So, what I'm smiling inside because I'm like, right, had we set off at the right depth to start with, which I'm going to ask you in a minute, how would we have known? And we didn't. We didn't know. So have we maximised on our catching potential? No.
No.
Is that something you get right every time? Is it possible to get it exactly right at the right time? Does experience tell you where to start? Well, I think you genuinely have put me where you thought we could catch them, although we both did say, oh, it's a bit deep there.
Touch deep.
But
A great place to start, though.
But as our swims dictated, so I'm talking, I'm not concentrating, I'm there, not there.
Just trickle a few more pellets.
Because what I mean by that is that the contours of the lake have dictated where we started, because we wanted to fish kind of a little bit further than what we started at, and naturally we wouldn't start probably just here. But if we had hindsight, we would do, and maybe that's only something that you can guess at. But what I'm getting round to is that it's the speed of which you're willing to change that I'm taking from this. It's like, right, move. And I forced us to fish a bit longer to prove, no, let's make sure. You know, because you fish these places and you know that that's not right. Because I'd have had 3 bites and I would have hooked them all at mouth, is what you were thinking, or at least 2 out of the 3, rather than me getting 1 out of the 3.
It's such a fine balance, Mick, because sometimes you come here, this distance, for instance, and you don't catch anything. So it's so hard, and it's the only way you've got to use the information on the day. I think that's so important, because if you just come with that, I'm just going to fish top kit and 1 next time, but it might be the day when it's overcast, rainy, big wind on. They might be happier in deeper water.
Yeah.
It's
well, I'll tell you what I'm thinking now. I'm thinking that we're not fishing in the right place, because I don't think they want to be this close to us. I don't know if it's too flat, too bright.
Yeah.
And I've seen an odd bubble out where we're fishing as Bomb, and I think if I were fishing in a match, I'd want to be doing something else. So I think it might be time to have a look at Bomb. What do you think?
I think you're probably right. Yeah, I think we've eked a couple of fish out here short.
Yeah.
Which is ultimately, when you start your match, you are just trying to get off to a start.
Yeah.
Very rare you fish here for 5 hours. And I think it'll be worth coming back to this later.
Yeah. All right. Brilliant.
Before we drop in the edge.
Sound. I'm good for that. Let's make a change.
Change the tactics then, Mick.
Yeah. I know it won't be long before we could get rod it on. Big pellet, medium pellet, small pellet.
Again, middle of the road.
Middle of the road.
Plain Jane. We'll start
Funny
on
that, isn't it? That
I've got some of these beauties.
you always go for a big maggot, don't you? Oh, have you got some?
We'll bring into play in a little bit. Some reds.
I'm just going to feed before I chuck that out, because I think that's a
definite thing, that is. So my theory on that is they hear the pellets and they follow them down.
Got you.
And then you can just chuck your bomb right in amongst it. Look at that, oh. One just swirled on it.
Didn't it just?
Let's plot that in there. Now I don't think this is going to be easy, if I'm honest, based on what's happened short.
That were a yard too far, that one. No, because we're saying that they're not. That was an indication straight away there.
Oh. Now I think this is where you can get a bit more adventurous with the bait. So what I always like to do is follow me feeding.
Yeah.
Give it a minute.
Yeah.
Maybe a minute 30. And then I'll go again and actually read the tip, see what happens. And if it's one of them days where every time you get an indication when you feed, because you do get that on the Bomb.
Yeah.
Bass is a nightmare for it. You feed and you get an indication as soon as it hits the water. On them days, you need to be casting every 2 minutes, because you get your bites quick.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's kind of what you set off saying this morning when we start. Sorry, saying this morning.
Wait.
That on us Paul, it will like throw some bait in while your float's in, see what happens, and then you're judging whether they're responding to the noise of the bait.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're responding to the noise of the bait, that were a proper liner, wasn't it? Then you know that they're coming to it.
I think on, I mean, they're getting indications straight away, aren't we?
Yeah.
So there's clearly some fish out there.
So here's a question: do I carry on feeding that?
Yeah, I would do today. Yeah, I would.
Would you? On that last one we fished, the shorter one.
Shortest one.
Yeah. Now, would you? Interestingly, I naturally want to feed more bait because I'm not going to be fishing it.
I think we're going to probably treat this differently now. This could be a big hitter at the end, so we can be a bit more adventurous.
I've got you. Because there's a difference, isn't there, which applies also to my style of fishing, where if you're not fishing it, you can feed a bit more bait to draw the fish in and keep them feeding. Whereas when you're actually trying to catch the fish, you've got to control how much bait you feed to make sure that you hook them. Because otherwise you finish it with too much bait, you can't catch the fish. You get indications, you get liners, you know, whether that be pole fishing or feeder fishing. Feeder fishing's terrible for it. If you've got too much bait in your peg, all you get is indications and no bites. So what's interesting is I want to feed, but you said feed to see if you get a reaction. Well, we've had 20 reactions since we've been in.
But what I mean is, some days you don't get so many indications when the pellets hit the water, and then days is when you can just chuck it out and leave it. But I always think when you get an indication as soon as the pellet hits, we just had a little knockdown straight away. I think that's when you've got to be in and out of your bomb.
Got you.
Because I think you get your bite as soon as the bomb lands.
Yeah. Because they're following the bait.
I think they follow the bomb down.
Yeah. So, question, that massive thing I've got going off in my head is, we didn't think that feeding heavy was right, and you would never do that. But yet, obviously, we're putting a lot of
you got to
bait in
imagine
here.
the fish are further away from us, so they're probably naturally a bit more comfortable. A bit more wind over there. I think it is a little bit different. Here, I think there's probably only a handful of fish that we're trying to sort of trick, and whereas over there could be loads, couldn't there?
There, you've just said that, because we're kind of pinching them. We're pinching them a bit, but out here we're trying to build them, get them all excited, and obviously bigger area. That's another thing, isn't it? It's a bigger area, whereas here we're concentrating this bait in a smaller area, so therefore we don't want too much bait in such a small area. But here we've got a lot of pellets, but they're spread over a big distance. I thought that were going to go there.
Yeah, I think I'd be recasting it.
Yeah, because we've had 10 or 15 indications.
Yeah.
I've just seen a fish gobbing on top.
He's just had a little mosey along here, yes. So again, get your, feed your pellets first.
Interesting.
Follow them in. It's a lovely way to fish. When it gets going, I love it. The spray and pray.
Do you think that sort of depth out there is the same as what we had on the short?
Yeah, it's probably deep. It's probably quite deep there where you're fishing.
Yeah, I was looking how long
You'd
that.
be in the full depth, I would imagine there.
That 20-gram bomb.
So interesting. Because of course on the day, and today might be that day, like a waggler would come into play.
Yeah.
But that's for another video.
That's for the more advanced lesson.
Yeah, that's for another video. So ultimately we can't do everything, can we?
No, we've got to ease ourselves in slowly, and I don't just
They're
mean...
there, aren't they?
Oh no, definite. Because this is going to be a long, not a long journey, but certainly a journey that we put me through, and obviously, hopefully for the people watching, that over a period of time.
See that one? That was in its mouth. That.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Because they look like
stabs. They're fish. That's the pellet in the mouth. That is.
Do you think they've been finicky? I'm not sure. Or you won't get too wet up about that.
No. I think obviously here, there's not a lot you can do about it. As in, you can't Short on your hook length.
Got you.
So we've kind of just got to put up with it a little bit.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what. Yeah. I'll finish up rocking and rock myself to sleep. The 20-inch hook length is an unusual thing for commercials, but something that the Glebe's always done. But it doesn't seem to affect the fishing because the weights are amazing. And I know a massive, brilliant method here is groundbait feeder, or open-ended feeder as such, because methods aren't allowed here. And it's 20, and they catch loads of fish, don't they?
Absolutely tons.
Yeah. But just because we've been fishing for a little while and it's not really happening, don't mean to say that we can't still amass a good weight of fish. Because I've been obviously seeing you, and I've been on a few commercial matches where it's hard, and then all of a sudden, so a recent match at Decoy Lakes, a separate one to the one I mentioned earlier, I think I had about £15 after 3 hours, and then I weighed £80. And everybody caught fish in the last 2 hours, hour and a half were incredible. And I think I had 6 fish in the last 6 puts, because they decide to feed when they're ready. And so we can't read too much into it.
No, and I think that's what's going to happen here today. I feel like, looking at this, we're going to have a challenging first 3 hours.
Yeah. See, that looked like it, wouldn't it?
Where we just got to try and pick them off.
Yeah.
Best we can.
Yeah.
And then I think it'll be we'll have a good session probably in that margin later.
Yeah.
I think this will get good, this will. We just got to keep feeding it.
Yeah.
Keep feeding it and keep casting and work at it, and eventually we'll find a little routine. And it may be that putting double pellet on or a red pellet on will work. Sometimes a bait with a bigger footprint can work really well.
Yeah, that never makes sense to me, but
just a bit more, something a bit more that they can pick out.
Yeah.
Look at that! Look, they've just fizzed there. They're in the bait, which is good.
Yeah, they're just not confidently feeding at the minute, are they?
It's funny that you say that though, but you'd happily put a bunch of red worms on, wouldn't you?
Wouldn't think
Green
twice
fishing.
about it. Yeah, yeah.
You haven't done the roll, have you?
No, I haven't. No. That's because I can't wait to get out, isn't it?
Or put a bunch of maggots on, or a big worm. It's the same principle, isn't it? It's just
Let's get that right, because that's a. I've just wound into one. That weren't ideal, would it?
He were happily sunning himself in.
Yeah, yeah.
And you've snided him. Imagine if this is it now.
Yeah.
But again, that it's a fish well up off the bottom, isn't it? And I think.
Without a doubt.
It's our challenge today. That is.
Yeah, but that's good, because this is typical of my experience. The commercial fishing is that it's never straightforward, but at the end of the day, you kind of go, well, that's how it were.
That's never in mouth. That's it mouth.
And I didn't say anything. It just feels like it is.
That's it mouth.
It could be under its chin. Let's.
That's it mouth. I know nothing. Did that take that reeling in, or was it just as you pick your rod up? That is in the mouth.
It were a long way back, I can assure you.
What? That's done my head in that. How?
Yeah.
Well, this is how you fish bomb. Just reel it in. Wow.
Yeah, it's in its mouth, yeah.
Yep. Shows what we know.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. But, the first one on the bomb.
Well, I don't know if I finished saying it, but I actually put a red pellet on, and I'm not.
Did you actually?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Because these pellets I've got here have got some mixed in. But surely not. Surely that's not what it were about.
But interesting. At least we've
we've had one. I was bringing it in so I could follow the routine, Gaffer.
You caught one without doing the routine.
Yeah.
That was the way, isn't it?
Quite funny.
That's interesting. So I've got some of my little red specials here, which
Well, these are...
they're the ones out of the feed, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
I've got some here that I've added a bit of red dye to and a lot of oil, and they're absolutely beautiful.
Isn't that funny? Because you're looking at that as like a target bait, aren't you?
Total target. That's nice, that is. Oh, look, they're turning in the bait, mate.
Oh, I tell you what, even I like that. We're a nice gentle plop.
Lovely, that.
Like I've cast a feeder rod before.
It has been known.
It's just got to get that, like you said, there's a routine, isn't there?
I learnt a lot actually. I'd not done a lot of bomb pellet fishing, and then I went out with Pen Wrighting and did followed him through a match years and years ago at Makins, and he'd done a lot of it because he'd grown up fishing at Gold Valley.
Yeah.
And Pem's a wonderful angler anyway, he's brilliant. And,
He's a brilliant angler.
And
a thoroughly nice chap.
Absolutely belting. And he'd fished it, and he was fishing the bomb and pellet, and he fed it for 3 hours before even going on it. And he just kept piling the pellets in. And then he went on it and he caught 8 in 8 chucks. And then that was it, it was done then. He never had another one. But he built it and built it and built it.
Let him get the confidence.
And he said that's what that bomb and pellet can all be about. You know, you just build it and build it and build it, and then eventually they can't help themselves.
And that's a sort of thing that I've had in lots of fishing. Building up the swim, let them get confident, which is completely different to how we started this day.
Completely different.
But yet it's still equally effective. Do you know, it's indications like that confuse me, because that were either a fish with its back on the line and it was swimming along the line, and because it were like ding, 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 or it's got it in its mouth.
They're the ones.
Oh,
that was lovely bite.
Yeah, it were, yeah.
What have you got on out of interest?
That's the 14-911. That one on a red pellet. Pellets come off. Who knows, maybe it's that.
Straight yoke, is it?
No. No, it's
going strong.
Yeah.
So we start like all of a sudden, like this is what I mean. Like I think you'll love bomb and pellet fishing, like as this journey goes on, because it's such a great way to fish.
Well,
it really is.
It's akin to I'm going to say
deadly.
the old days.
It's deadly.
Let him have a catapult in his hand, he'll be happy all day. Yeah.
It is deadly. I mean, we can see, look, every time you're feeding pellets now, there's fish in your bait.
Yeah.
We weren't getting that shot, were we?
No. And do you think that's a distance thing?
Yeah, I just think they're more comfortable over there.
Yeah.
Not saying they won't come here later, but it's yeah, I think we're not far off getting this right here. I can't believe that came off. That was such a good bite, wasn't it?
Yeah, because it was like that, ding, 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 and then it went like that.
I'd love to know if that, like that, ding, ding, ding is it, where it's in its mouth. It's got to be, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
And it panics and off it goes.
Yeah. That looked like it in its mouth then. That looked like the barks. It's like a pull.
I love it. I genuinely love fishing bomb pellet. I think it's a great method.
It's
interesting.
Yeah.
And it's something anyone can do as well, which I think is so nice as well. You know, this is even if you don't own a pole, you come and do this. You can compete doing this.
Oh, yeah, because you can, especially if everybody wants to fish a pole, because you're going to command
that
area of the lake, aren't you? And because you have to feed it quite aggressively, if it does work, you've probably pulled everybody's fish, haven't you? Which is a great thing. Having your own water.
Yeah.
I suppose when you've got a big open lake like this, the fish probably do want to back off, because they've got somewhere to back off to. A lot of water in there between me and the far bank.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm going to be so interested to see if you get liners now when you pick these pellets.
Mm. And that's right over top of Bomb.
That's
that is.
right over it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many indications do you want? Feels different now. Got a nice bit of ripple, haven't we?
Yeah.
Bit of
It's
cloud cover.
yeah, it went flat and horrible when we were fishing pole, didn't it? And I felt that it was that kind of muggy.
Balmy sort
Why
of.
would anything want to feed when it's like that? It's kind of, and I'm saying carp are really reactive to sun and
Especially
change,
this
aren't
time of
they?
year, yeah. They're,
Yeah.
I mean, at the minute, oh, actually, funny, look at that. You just had a swirl on your pellets you've thrown in short.
Oh.
The funny thing is, obviously, at the minute, they're still trying to spawn. So the water temperature is a big thing for them at the minute.
So they're quite moody.
I have a reach up, mate. I reckon if you had a stopwatch, I reckon it'd be like 3 minutes, I think.
I think that's the one.
I think so.
Funny because I use a stopwatch in.
Who says you maybe you could bore one on? I'm not sure.
I use a stopwatch in a lot of my feeder fishing, and it's massive. So there's no reason why it shouldn't be the same in this, is it? But I'd not considered that because.
Oh, that's lovely.
But I would if I were method feeder fishing.
So he's followed it down. You see?
Oh,
what I'm
without
saying?
doubt, without doubt.
That's instant, wasn't it? Whoa. Go on, son. Like, how good's that? You fed them pellets, you've
Yeah.
popped it in, lovely and
Yeah.
accurate, right in the months.
No, it were right in the middle, wasn't it?
That was great. And that's what I mean, like that.
Yeah, I can see
Just
another,
reeling in, you've caught a fish just because you've taken the time to reel in and do it again.
Yeah, and I can see another fish
Yeah.
where I'm. So the chances are, I mean, tell you what I'm thinking is that they're sitting high in the water, and what you've got to do is just pull one down.
Exactly. It's just like, I know when you've been skimmer fishing in deep venues,
Oh.
they're not on the bottom, are they?
No,
They're up,
no.
and you're just trying to get one to follow it down,
Yeah.
and it's very much
Yeah.
the same with this. Another good fish, that one. That rod's bending nice, mate.
Mm.
Lovely.
Pulling through lovely.
Yeah. Have you got 023 on the hook length, have you?
Yeah, yeah.
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 Nice. It's a stout
'Cause
tackle.
I know that they're.
Nice
I know they pull.
Yeah. Go on, the bomb.
There he is.
There he is.
Immaculate fish, Joe.
That were lovely.
That were on the red as well.
And interestingly, both fish you've caught have both been up, haven't they? As if, I know the other one was a bit bizarre.
yeah, yeah. Just didn't lip that way. Just.
He snatched that, hadn't he?
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt.
So one of these on.
Can't help it, can you? You've got to have a go with him, haven't you?
Look how vibrant that is. It's gorgeous, isn't it?
I might want to eat that myself.
Have a couple.
Treat you.
Don't eat them all.
Oh, wow. Oh, I could eat that myself.
Brilliant. So this is where you're now thinking, right, actually, because we've been more aggressive, this is where you can put a bag of fish together, you know?
Yeah. Oh, even now we're happy with
I
that.
love that, though. You've just split away.
It's,
Because they're not scared of the bomb. I think they quite like it. As
Well,
in the noise of it.
when you're rattling these 8 mils in,
Yeah.
they're clearly not put off by them
No.
because they're swirling in them. It's a dinner bell for them, isn't it? Oh, I thought that was going to turn around then.
Well, they're there, aren't
yeah,
they?
they are there, yeah.
And then we just got to... I think one thing we haven't actually mentioned on is timings, because it's not something that I talk about a lot in my matches and stuff. And it's that timing thing, like people say, don't they? why don't you feed the margins from the start, for instance? But you
Yeah.
can clearly see now, Mick, in perfect evidence, there's an odd one mooching around close, but the fish are over there now, aren't they? You
Yeah.
can see them all cruising around
Yeah.
over there. So you're putting bait down here for no reason at all.
Yeah, because they don't want to be here.
But I reckon at 1:30, 2 o'clock, when we're just sat here, even if we haven't fed this, we'll start seeing them mooching around close in.
Do you think they just get used to what
Like
happens?
routine, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is.
It's like a routine.
Of course it is. Tell you what I'm thinking now is to cast really regular.
Yeah.
Because I've had that one up
Yeah.
like that, and I've seen a couple of fish swirl, and rather than feeding 2 pouchfuls, it's 1, but twice as often.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Because clearly,
I don't think
you can see an odd fish on the surface.
it doesn't look like a day where you're going to bore one on, does it?
No,
By that I mean just leaving it.
no, it's definitely not like that.
Saying that.
That's you can see that's a liner. You can see it's just on its back and it's just rubbing along.
So interesting because you get so much feedback, don't you?
Yeah, you can read everything that's going off, and I mean that the fish just swirled there, but I don't think that were off my line because it's been in a while, and I'm just going to try
I remember
casting quite regular. And
Ant Flint, who's a real good Gold Valley angler. I was at Medlands and I was chucking out every 2 minutes, and he said to me on the video, he's like, why were you waiting so long? And I'm like, well, I was only giving it 2 minutes. He's like at Gold Valley they actually have 30-second casts,
really,
because it's, you know, if it's that day when they're responding to it, that's your window of opportunity.
yeah.
I mean, that one just swirled on your bomb.
Oh yeah, and it had swelled for the pellets that had just hit water before I chucked it in.
I'd love to know if you had like a 10-gram bomb now.
Something a bit lighter. Indication. Just gonna try.
Fin fishes were 4 foot hook length on there. Here.
That makes sense. Well, it does today.
Yeah, no, I did a video with him years ago and he fished a 4 foot hook length.
Catching them on the drop.
He's convinced he'd catch him on the drop.
Yeah, because just because your tip don't go around straight away, it doesn't mean to say that it's not had it in its mouth a while. It's gone flat again. Feel like it's a day where that ripple will make a big difference.
Seems to be, doesn't it? Boy. Would that have been under a minute, do you think?
Yeah,
A minute-ish, wasn't it?
there or thereabouts.
I can see you getting into this.
Yeah,
What are you bringing, mate? I'm just bringing 3 bags of 8 mils.
yeah. 2 bomb rods.
Yeah. Great bites, aren't they? I mean, that was just like...
Oh no, because I think all the actions happen, hasn't it? By the time you see anything, it's fish is already on its way because it's
Job's already been done.
yeah. By that time they're panicking and drag your rod in. I was waiting for that.
Yeah, he was coming in quite sensible.
Yeah. It's
And then he got
it's like the
a
barbel, isn't it? When you hook them, they're all right until they see daylight.
Lovely.
Gorgeous fish, aren't they? Look
Yeah,
at that.
great. Good stamp, aren't they?
Yeah, the perfect size for
What we're doing.
not too big. I mean, he's got some shoulders on him. Immaculate condition.
Oh, if I was sat on the box now, I'd be like, hey, there we go, boys. We've got it going.
I'll tell you one thing that I've noticed with you guys. You always take the hook out with your finger, whereas I don't find it that easy. I like to use a disgorge, and I probably need to
No, just
poke it out. Yeah,
comes with how you do it, isn't it? It's not putting pellets out.
I'm not sure what it is. It's
That was a great bite.
it were perfect.
So, Mick, Bomb, how's it going?
Well, we've had half a dozen fish on it, but what's really interesting is, and it's a massive lesson, or at least reminder, because it applies to all fishing, is that as the conditions change, so do the fish's behaviour. What I mean by that is that we've just had a nice run, but you'll see there's a bit of a ripple on again, and it went flat and dead, like muggy, and the fish from there was that looked like it was.
I thought that was going to develop then.
That was just off the back of them pellets I've just fed. As we fed, there'd be a fish swelling in his pellets, and you could see even sometimes it'd swell off back of the bomb.
Yeah.
And then as the wind dropped and it went flat, the fish just disappeared. It was like there were no signs of life. I noticed some fish moving. I don't know if they all moved into the corner, and there's a little ripple picked back up.
It's changed actually, the wind, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's completely changed direction. It's not really been a big wind, and you usually find when it's a gentle wind like this that it's not particularly bowling to one direction. It's just swelling round, and the fish just basically have had a little chew, and I think that's just because the conditions were a little bit more suitable for them, and we've caught them quite quickly. Good bites. I've caught some on that red pellet, I've caught some on the brown one, and it's been really effective. But the one thing I'm taking from it all is that, and you've already touched on it, and we touched on it about how the day goes. It's one thing I'm certainly feeling straight away is that you have to be on your toes, and reactive fishing is what I'm thinking that this is. You've got to kind of, so I know we've kept it simple today so that an idiot like me can cope with taking all the information in.
It?
Yeah, we might have had a pellet waggler up, or we might have had some shallow rigs up, because I think it was that kind of day. That was a proper bite, wasn't it?
So what's noticeable, Mick? I mean, we've just sort of sat and had a bit. You just had a fish, hadn't you, without the cameras on?
Yeah.
The bites are a bit more like chuck it out and wait a little bit. I'm not saying waiting for 10 minutes, but you're certainly getting 2-3 minute bites now.
Well, they're not swirling on.
No, I was just about to say that.
On your bait, which is.
So maybe they are starting to switch on.
Yeah, and it's something that you did earlier, which when we first went in on pole short, you throw some pellets round your float and see if you get a reaction, and you can see that you get a reaction on your tip, but it's not as the pellets hit the water, it says that at the bottom. Which I'm learning from you is that's helping me to read where the fish are in the depth. Are they near the surface, or are they sort of further down? And
it's working a treat now. I mean, you're catching really well now, I think.
It's good. It's really productive, and if you could keep on going on this, you'd have a great day's fishing. But more importantly, it's teaching us, isn't it, that
I mean, that's a good fish, isn't it?
you've got to be diverse. And yeah, it is. They certainly pull here, don't they?
Because I think if you just plodded on with that now, you'd have a great weight, wouldn't you?
Oh no! If this were a match, you'd never come off feeding fish. I think is the story, isn't it? That's the saying, and you wouldn't do, because that's exactly what's happening. But conditions, change the conditions, and this has been great. We could have filled the gaps in probably.
Yeah.
With a pellet waggler, but that's not what today's about. This is just about learning and understanding a little bit more, and got me thinking. It's got me thinking about what it is, and I suppose one of my main confusions is, what do I need? And how do I approach it all? Well, I think the answer is you can't tell straight away, and you won't be able to just rock up and go, you need everything. But over the series of these sort of days that we're going to have, you'll build up a kind of vocabulary of different methods, and also an armoury, so that when you do get a change in conditions like we've had,
you can react.
You recognise what's happening and adjust accordingly.
Because if Sam would have been sat on the box, for instance, today.
Yep.
He in that spell where we were like, oh, I can't really catch anything, they're all on the top, he would have probably caught 3 or 4 mugging, wouldn't he? Or
of course he would.
A waggler or something, because he prepared for it.
And made the most of the situation. Whereas obviously we've tried to make something work, and eventually it has.
Yeah, I mean, this is great now, isn't it? And I think we'll probably feed the edge now, and I think We're not far off them coming in, to be honest.
No, they're the fact that they've gone down out there and the wind's on, I think they'll be ready for it, won't they?
Yeah.
But we'll just land this beast.
Cool. That's the best one of the day, that, isn't it?
Yes.
That's a proper fish. Bream don't do this, mate.
No. Have to get it Jim. They don't
Common,
have,
look at
they
that.
don't have paddles on back of them like that though, do they?
See why Sam Collett advised you to use substantial gear, can't you?
Oh yeah. He said, I hope you got them tied on 0234. He's
He's not wrong.
no, he's not. He just got a big paddle and he's nice and fit. Here he is, look. There he is.
Yeah, lovely.
And that's
That's a perfect way to end the bomb, isn't it?
it certainly is. Let's well I need to get my arm rest, so we might as well go down onto margin like.
All right.
Oh, he's a good fish.
He's best one of the day.
He's a very good fish. Beautiful.
awesome.
Well worth the wait.
That was brilliant.
Right, Joe. Obviously we talked about while we were fishing bomb going onto margin.
Yep.
Would you do it on a time thing? Because of course that's my theory is to feed it as early as possible before everybody
Yep.
else. Before everybody else.
For everybody else.
Because I want to command all fish because they're coming in. But I know that that's not necessarily right, but sometimes it is. So go on. What am I looking? What's the indication?
It's 2:15. By the time we've finished doing our bits and bobs and caught fish and that, it's 2:15 now. I think 2 o'clock is go time.
That's if we were fishing
That's
in
when you're
March.
starting to sort of think
Yeah.
the fish's behaviours are changing, and like we've noticed it when we've been sat here, all of a sudden they're not on the top anymore,
No.
and they're starting. You're seeing an odd one coming by, close. All of a sudden they're wanting to come in. That's like thumbs up. Let's have a look now. And I think any time after 2 o'clock is fair game,
Right.
feeding
Right.
wise.
So I mean, because obviously you've not fed,
Mm-hmm.
you can't look down the margin and say, oh, they're in edges. Oh,
No.
but do you sometimes? Because
I don't.
we've seen fish moving, haven't we?
Yeah, I don't.
It's just a time thing.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time doing this kind of fishing, and them days of piling the bait in first, getting them all tailing up and all that business, them days are over for me. I prefer to wait for the correct time, put just enough bait in to catch them, and work.
Well,
from there.
there's a theme there, isn't it? Because despite the fact that we were larruping pellets in long, that thing that we did earlier, and I've seen you do it before, where you're just taking fish. It's the same old thing with this carp fishing, that you're not trying to get 1,000 fish in your peg. You're trying to get one in, catch it, get another one,
Yeah.
catch it, get another one, catch it. So
we can
having
be a
said
bit
that-
more adventurous down here. We're feeding with a big pot now,
But what? Because they're coming in edges to feed.
just to feed, and we've got a depth of water that we can
Yeah.
sort of control them in as well.
Because even my style of fishing, so for instance, Southfield, you can feed a short line, and it's always at the end, and you can put a lot more bait in there because they only come there when they're ready to feed.
It's very similar. very similar,
I am
yeah.
seeing similarities.
It's very, very similar.
So what am I going to feed here?
Right, I think we should just put in like cover the bottom of the pot in maggots, dead maggots, and then fill the pot with ground bait. That's what I would go in with to start with. And this is, I don't ever put 3 or 4 pots in. I just put one in, and I think one at the
There's
right.
a lot of bait there.
Yeah, one at the right time is better than 3 or 4 at the wrong time, in my opinion. And it's amazing how quick they'll come to that. Like it'll take them less than 5 minutes, and they'll be fishing there. I can guarantee it, because we've waited. We've 2:15. The fish's behaviour's changed. These are up for it. I can tell.
Well,
Nice and accurate.
since we mixed it, I've added a bit of water to that just to make sure that it's
Amazing
nice
how it dries out, isn't it?
Yeah,
And that's gone in lovely.
yeah. I can feel the weight in the pot.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you won't believe it. And it goes down. A nice little bit of cloud, plenty of scent in the water. They'll be on that in no time. And of course, we've got good gear on now. We've got the right elastic on. We've got the pink elastic on. Now's when you can. That's a different rig, isn't it?
Oh, I picked my wrong rig up. Look. That's the 416. Because I was thinking, I'm sure we had a bulk on that when we started. Yeah, so we've got that bulk, 6 inches out. It's got size 12, 911 on it.
Yep.
And
Good gear.
so, I remember this morning you said a bunch of maggots.
Yeah, I always like to start on maggots. I think it's a good starter. Worms are
How
great.
many?
As many as you can put on, Mick.
Tell me about that, because is that for weight? Is that for sight? Is that for
I think it's for sight. I think it's a nice big bait.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
I always remember you talking about traction as well. I think when they suck it up, it's
6.
got a lot of traction.
No,
Look at that, look, there's one just boiled around your feet, look. That weren't happening an hour ago, was it?
No.
I reckon you're going to get one in no time. Oh, there's one there. Look, one pot you've put in, and there's one swirling just past.
Yeah, because of course we are in on his own,
Yeah,
aren't we?
we're on the same, but matches, it's the same. It's the same. Adam Richards once told me something, and it stuck with me forever. You know, because you come away, say you've caught quite a lot of fish late on in a match, and you always think, oh, I should have gone down the edge a bit earlier. But Adam always taught me that you catch a certain amount of fish in the edge. Say 70 pound is a classic
Yeah, I've heard
example.
you say that before, yeah.
If you go down the edge with 3 hours to go, you still catch 70 pound. You just catch over 3 hours. Whereas if you leave it till last 90 minutes or last hour, you still catch your 70 pound, but you've caught it in a condensed period of time. And it stuck me forever, that has. It's like, leave it as long as you can.
So do you think that you catch more, or it just means that you spend more time doing other things?
No, I think, you give your other lines chance to go, look at that.
Daisies.
Look at that.
All right.
Yeah, straight away. 2 minutes after you've put that bit of bait in, that is, because I've just been
I'm
timing
just watching that bead.
it, doing its job.
Yeah.
Look at that pink. I love that pink. When that comes out to play, it's what we want to see. Look at that, it's just Boston straight away. And yeah, and he sort of said, you know, the longer you can leave it, you still catch that 70 pound, but you catch it in an hour because you've done it at the right time, and then you've given your other lines more chance to work.
Yeah,
And
you're
it's
making the most out of your swim.
It's out there, because I've done it loads of times. You go down there too early, it's not quite right, you lose a few, you miss bites. Whereas if you can leave it, but you still got to give yourself a realistic chance to catch the weight of fish, so you still need an hour. That's a good one and all, isn't it?
Mm.
Gaff at it.
Yeah, you're right about that elastic, it does, doesn't it? It's bought too soon. It's gaffering me now, look. I let him get his head, didn't I? Should have netted him. Should have Andy made it, shouldn't I? And do you know what I did? I pulled my elastic tight, and I thought, well, I've overdone it.
Yeah.
So I let a little bit slip through my finger, and he's took advantage of me.
Yeah. It's a good fish, though.
He's took advantage of my kindness.
Look at that straight away, though. And that just shows you that we've waited. Oh, look at that one. Well, it took you a minute to get him in, and he's £10, so it's not that bad, is it?
Oh dear. Yeah, that's a 20-inch net.
Yeah, that's a big one, that.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Proper edge fish. And that's the difference. You've waited for the right time to do it, executed it lovely.
Yeah, because straight away I'm thinking, well, why don't we just go down there at the start?
Yeah, but they wouldn't have been there.
No.
They wouldn't have been there.
Oh, he's a cracker,
He's a
him.
beauty, isn't he? Edge fish. That was lovely. How calm were that? No liners or anything. Look at that, there's another one coming out. Oh, margin party time.
So now then, next procedure is what?
I
Feed
would
again
feed
or
it,
go
yeah,
back
I would
in?
feed it. I would feed it. That was such a good, like, it went in, it went under, you caught a fish. Why not try it again?
Yeah. Because of course, this is the thing that, what I'm hoping to get from this experience is, do I feed, do I not feed? Do you know, don't put too much bait in, don't get too many fish in your peg. But all of a sudden, they're coming to feed here, aren't they? So
Yeah, and what you got to imagine is, although that fish didn't create too much commotion down there, when you hooked that, it would have flicked its tail, created a swirl, and although there's probably quite a bit of bait still there, it would have spread out. Whereas we want them in a little spot like that, don't we? So we need to refocus the fish into a little spot. Accuracy is really important down there. And it may be that we can get away with a nice big pole pot on the end. That can be good.
yeah, I've seen people fishing with a pot on. Is that what, more efficient, quicker?
Sometimes they're just really up for it, you know, and it might be the case today. Judging by that response, they might just be really up for it down the edge, and you can be really aggressive and feed with that big cad pot. But sometimes I quite like the time it takes for you to big pot it, come back, put your bait on, go back. I think sometimes calms us
Yeah.
swim down.
Something I seem to remember, and I don't know if I'm right, you'll tell me, is about lowering your rig in rather than laying it in.
Yeah.
Because the chances are, there's a great big fish like that in a small amount of water.
There's a lot of body there, isn't there?
Yeah, and of course it's my tendency to lay it in, i.e. swing it out and let it swing in. Trouble is then you've more chance of it going over a fish, which...
Whoa.
Oh, right. You didn't tell me it was this good down here.
Then this is the difference. Like we've towed between spots really, haven't we? We've done well on the bomb.
Yeah,
it hasn't been like amazing. It's
pieced
been
a few
nice.
fish together.
Short pole hard, but then all of a sudden down there,
Yeah, and that was lovely and clean.
what more could you want?
8 dead maggots.
8 dead maggots. No need to put a worm on or anything at the minute. Like if you catching like this.
So, how would you know when you've fed too much? That's
What
you know, I'm
happens?
not thinking like, well, because naturally I want to net this fish, put a pot of bait in.
Yeah. Once you start going in and having problems of getting a clean bite, that's when you've got to start looking at what what you're feeding. And it may be that you have to start putting more ground bait in, more maggots in and less ground bait, more particle, more food. That can work really well.
What? Because that's less confusion and
Just less linery stuff. Like you can you've put 10 pots of ground bait in there, it just goes loopy.
because they can blow it around and chasing it around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I'd have put my wellies on today, Joe.
Mistake.
I'm trying not to get my feet wet, and it's not helping me
big mistake.
pick these fish up. So it's wet feet for me, I'm afraid.
Yeah, well.
Because I've noticed you just like to trap the fish in the net and just kind of.
Yeah, I kind of like cradling with my
cradle
knees.
it.
Yeah, just to protect the fish more than anything. You don't want them thrashing around, do we?
No, not at all. And just repeat the process.
Yeah, why not? It's working, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm of course it's ideal. So it's a nice clean bite. It's gone under, and I can remember an odd occasion when I've done this sort of fishing, and you go down there's like little dithers and
Issues.
Yeah, it's just not right, and ordinarily I'm right in thinking that that's because the right fish aren't there.
Yeah.
Because you can get silverfish and roach and all sorts of other fish that will come into these margins, won't they?
I think people like the bream on commercials now love feeding in the edge. Here and Hallcroft and loads of places, and you can think there's loads of carp down there, but it could be bream a lot of the time.
Yeah, and they're notoriously hard.
Spring Vale's one. You think there's loads of carp down there.
Yeah, no, last time I went there, we
bit of an unscrew.
Yeah, I need to tighten the pot up.
Lovely.
I mean, it's plumbed up lovely that. We've got a nice flat spot, and even I'm sort of confident that I'm fishing at the right place. So, how much plumbing up would you do? Or I suppose it were quite obvious that people fish that way because it were flat, weren't it? When the grass were flat and you could see that. So you just have a good plumb round till you find somewhere.
It's essential, and even like you might even find a spot down here, much closer in.
Yeah.
Where it's right. It is worth.
I think
worth.
a fish suck that in and blow it out while I was setting my float. And probably a bit too quick for me.
Yeah, sometimes it is worth that time and plummet. And I like to use the 45 grammer and really work the plummet and find spots.
Yeah, looking for them. Make sure you've not got a slope. Yeah, a nice positive heavy.
Yeah, something you can really get a proper reading on. You don't have to worry about silt in the margins. So
I can see why you need that heavier float than I would naturally have done. I'd have been tempted for a 412. It's only shallow, but all of a sudden, them big fish are just swirling that water, and it's just making a mockery in the float. Really,
they create so much movement.
Yeah,
and that's without any wind. There's no wind today.
And my fear is when it's wafting around it's going to waft into another fish, and then you're going to get foul lookers. Because one thing you don't want is Not with foul looking at 10-pounder. In tail deer.
Not really. Oh,
That was one. So
that was rude, wasn't it?
it was very, yeah. How very rude.
How rude.
You'd now want to feed, wouldn't you?
I don't know. I'm prepared to look, because although he exit stage left, it weren't like a massive boil or anything. So I'd be prepared just to drop back in and just see.
Yeah.
Just see what's going on. I'm more inclined, I think, at the minute to maybe even go in with a cad pot, a proper cad pot.
So that you feed into a bar. There's another fish there, so
Yeah, you'll get.
we might get away with that.
They're obviously in a good mood, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're up for it now. I mean, look at him.
Yeah, he knows there's some bait there. Doesn't
He does. Doesn't he?
I can see why people trim grass back a bit, because it's finish up with a sore neck.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do it here, and it's.
That's why it's all a bit flora and fauna.
Mm.
And I can't fault that really, because the place is beautiful, isn't
No,
it?
you can't. It's one of the very best. It really is.
Yeah. It would treat like a garden, and it looks like one. It's lovely.
See,
Yeah, you'd want to put some
wanna
bait
put
in it.
some
Even
bait
I
in
can
there,
feel it.
wouldn't you?
Yeah. Even though we had a sign after.
the fish are there, but they've probably just been. Just the bait's probably spread out.
And you need to focus them.
And you would get one. If you sat there now, you would
Yeah,
get one, but
yeah.
it might take you 5 minutes rather than.
Yeah, rather than doing what we've done, which
Yeah.
has gone in.
So let's
fed.
try that cad pot. That might just be the answer.
Yeah. You can't rest on your laurels, can you?
No, because then you've got to remember as well, we're trying
I've
to
got one here.
make the most of a short window of opportunity. That's a nice little size point.
Yeah.
You get them ones. I think Guru do a really nice big one, and Preston do a real big one. They're well worth having one in your box.
Well, what's really funny is, and I'm sure they won't mind me saying this, that big one that Preston did looks like this.
Mm.
That were deemed as a joke
Yeah.
by the people there, because it was my idea that I realised that when I was meeting people in shops, not everybody had a cup kit,
No, of course.
and some people had bought a margin pole before they became as popular as what they are today, and they wanted a pot to put a ball of groundbait in that retrofitted, because of course that's how pots used to be. Seymour used to do a pot that you could clip on and clip off
Yeah, I remember it. I think I had one.
before cup kits were ever invented.
Remember the ones with the screw on? You could screw
Yeah,
it in.
yeah, of course I do. Yeah, I used to sell them. And and I said, why don't we do that? Sort of.
Yeah, that worked. Didn't it? That worked.
No, it definitely worked.
That worked.
You could see the fishes
Come to it. Then.
come to it. Yeah. It's a big wallower.
Yeah.
Oh, he's just straightening his sonana and getting his tail.
He's just having a blizzle.
Yeah, and it was for people who didn't have a spare kit for
For the margin poles and stuff.
yeah.
But
And it's turned into being a brilliant. Because I know I've seen you and I've seen Sam Collett, and you'll actually fish with what deemed to be a potting pot on your pole, so you can. I'm not surprised if you're going to catch one of these every show.
They come into the bait, aren't they? That pot you've got on there, it's all right at the minute, but sometimes they want more bait than that.
Well, that's not even a mouthful. I've seen you put bigger pieces of paste on.
Yeah. That's another cracking fish. That's a good sign though. That literally comes straight to that little pile, innit?
Yeah.
Can't get better than that.
Well, they spent all day swimming around tormenting us, so they had to eat eventually, didn't they?
Now they're having a. What do you think?
Well, of course, this is
Bit of you now.
idyllic catching fish, aren't you? And I think I said it earlier that I've got to get my head round that you don't catch. If you caught like this for 5 hours, you'd need a million nets, and you'd probably get bored.
We ain't got enough nets in warehouse.
No. I need to start using my. I think my fingers are too fat to get in these fish's mouths, you know. And if you call like this all day, you'd probably get fed up with it. So ultimately, it's interesting that they're now feeding, and as I said earlier, well, why don't we just do this all day? Why don't we just fish out margins? And I think some people like to do that, but they have to wait until fish are ready to be there, don't they?
Yeah.
Which is
when you fill your time in doing your other bits.
Yeah, to maximise on your day's fishing, and it's entertaining and enjoyable if you can do different things through your day.
But I mean that is like the most textbook margin fishing you could get, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah. But I think that's a nice margin.
Yeah.
From my experience, or my limited experience, it's a nice depth. It's the one that you'd say, try and find this, try and find that. What did I say? We're 2'5". I'm cramming as much bait as I can in there. I can't help myself.
No, you've got
someone got a hang of that, didn't I? I'm thinking about putting 2 of these on.
I'll put 2 on.
I've seen people that do that years ago. I never really understood what it was. Well, I thought they were feeding 2 types of bait.
No, you're just trying to get as much as they can. But now, obviously, like they said, that mega pot and things like that, they're invaluable to have.
I tell you what, I think that wet ground bait's doing something else more than being heavy. It comes out of them pots lovely when it's wet.
You'd have to remember the years ago. You'd be like, bang, bang,
tapping,
bang.
tapping, yeah. Which is not ideal because sometimes you're trying to get your bait out of your pot and your float's gone and you.
It's moved on, hasn't it? Like these pots now, like the one you've got on, you've got them holes in.
Yeah.
The bait comes out lovely. With the anglers have come up with these ideas. It's ingenious, really.
Well, it develops, doesn't it? And it's quite clear why, because people were trying to do what I would do, which is catch a fish, put the cupping kit on, ship out, get one. Which, listen, if you're pleasure fishing, then it's not a big deal. But if you want to be efficient, match fishing, then you try and find the quickest possible route, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
And if that means clodding a big pot into your pole so you can feed and fish without coming in and going back out again, that'll make a difference between winning and coming second in a match. But for me, it's just a great proof that they're coming straight to it, and you need that little parcel of bait. It's almost a mousetrap, isn't it? Like,
it's like a feeder almost, isn't it?
Yeah, because you know you've got your bait on top of your up bait on top of you. Oh, so I saw that fish as I saw me. Bite.
What are you doing to me? It's but I think the biggest takeaway, obviously you're doing everything dead right here, is the time of day, isn't it? Like you wouldn't be catching any better if you'd have primed it for half an hour before going on it.
No, it were instant because they obviously want to be there.
People think you've got to prime these swims and you just haven't.
No.
If you get your timing right. So look, even the cruisers are here now. They were over there earlier.
So would you ever have 2 margins?
Only when it goes wrong. If I feel like I've messed it up, like sometimes no matter in the best will in the world, you end up foul looking like several. And it can just be too much bait, as in there's too much bait in the peg. And I will find the same depth. Hey up!
Talk about a bream and it'll come.
Bream. And then I'll maybe start again here, closer in, or even down the other side. I'm not, I quite like doing that. Fresh, clean lake bed.
Yeah.
We can't finish on him, can we?
No.
I mean, he's a nice fish, don't get me wrong.
He's a cracking fish.
Have a weight of them, wouldn't you?
One of them would be chuck on Wednesday at Southfield, would be glorious.
You'd be very happy, man, wouldn't you? Cracking.
Lovely fish. They live among us.
Do you know what I'm thinking? That's not enough bait.
Is that right?
Yeah. You missed that bite, didn't you?
Yeah.
What a bream. Attack is the best form of defence.
Let's get the big boy out.
Yep. I like a bream as much as the next man, but not when there's a £10 carp to be had. So next time, what do you fancy doing next time then? Because I think we've covered like short pole, edge, bomb.
Tell you one thing that's always confusing for me is when you have to fish slightly longer pole, and it's up and down. What I mean is it's shallow with a deep rig beneath it, and I know that.
So like pinging and.
Yeah. But yet the fact that you might finish up going out at deck, that's always interesting, because it's when, why is it that, and how do you feed for shallow and deep? And I think that's something I'd like to.
It's a very relevant method, that is, because that's another one, a bit like what we've covered today. It works on a lot of venues. You know, that pinging, long pole, up and down. It's a really reliable approach, that is.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
And I think I'd like to do it on carp, because I think F1s is a completely different kettle of fish, and we probably need to
Different driving school, that.
build up speed. Yeah, build up speed.
Different driving school, that one.
Get me up to speed before we start. Get me tipping, tapping and thrashing water to a foam, catching 200 F1s in a day. So yeah, let's. I mean, shallow's hard work, but so is a lot of things. And
Roach fishing on a feed is hard work.
Exactly, but it's the decisions on.
Oh, that were a bite, wasn't it?
Weren't it? Yeah.
How's your father?
I tell you what.
Was that on maggots?
Yeah.
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 No dibbing and dobbing with that one, were there?
No.
Perfect one to end on.
He sucked that in. He wanted it.
Although I know you very well now, and I know that this won't be the last fish, even though it's the last fish for the.
Oh no, the session's only just started. Can't pack in. No, I think it's for me, and like I said at the beginning of this particular video, I'm not trying to say that we've never been fishing before, because we have. Of course we have. But it's genuine, like, right, so why aren't we fishing pellets down the edge? Why aren't we fishing groundbait out there? Would you have two margin lines? And it's all them things that you take for granted, that I don't, that I think
Nicely done.
I want to learn, and I think it's a great series to share with everybody who watches these videos. What have I done with my discardy? Because he's just a little bit deeper into its mouth there. When do we make the decisions? He's perfect. I mean, he's an absolute beauty.
Cracker, is he?
Yeah. When do we make the decisions on how we approach his peg? And like you say, it's what time, when do we do it?
Your favourite saying, what, where and when?
What, where and when.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, look at them.
Beauties, aren't they?
They're stunning. Great fishery. Absolutely great day. And I can't wait for the next session. It's
like an extended mixing bowl, this, isn't it?
yeah, it's mixing bowl on the bank, because you can talk about it all day long, but real time, fishing in real time, and it not working. And I'm kind of glad it didn't go exactly to plan.
It'd be boring, wouldn't it?
Because we've had to work through that. And yeah, I think if we were on episode 6 of this, I go, right, I'm taking the lot. I'm bringing my shallow rigs, I'm setting them all up, and I'm going to set myself up for a day, excuse me, and then try and fill in the gaps and catch more fish. But as I say, one step at a time, and the greatest journey starts with the smallest step. So, brilliant, Joe. Absolutely fantastic. Can't wait for the next one. And hopefully everybody's took a bit away from it, because I certainly have. And I'm going to probably have a think about it, and probably do a little bit of feedback on it as well, as to when I've digested it all. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. I really enjoyed it.
On to the next.
On to the next.